A very good evening and welcome to round number 10 of this year's ASR Supercars Championship, and it's the last sprint round before the season's end. Yep, that's right. After tonight, it's all about endurance and the dual race format, with Bathurst just around the corner, literally 2 weeks away till the biggest weekend of the season for both the development series and the main game drivers. There's plenty of drivers out there tonight looking to atone for some very, very subpar performances at the last round at Sandown at Motor Raceway, where only a handful of drivers finished, and after what seemed to be such promise for a number of pairings, and it all amounted to naught. So they need to get some points on the board before they tackle the mountain in 2 weeks' time. And a man who knows all about that is Benjamin Roadie Rhodes, and he's right opposite me for this evening's racing. And Roadie, well, Sandown was a complete mixed bag. We had plenty of drivers up the front, took turns leading the race, and they're in good positions, and a very, very high rate of attrition. So that's one thing you cannot afford when it comes to sprint racing, especially when this is the last round to prep before Bathurst.
Yeah, and good evening to everybody who is watching along at home. And yeah, it's such a change of pace we had coming out of the last round at Sandown. A lot of drivers, a lot of teams around should have rolling all the eggs into one basket. Well, I think most teams really trying to roll the eggs into one basket to set themselves up for a team scene, but also taking advantage of some good drivers to bring some maybe less quick drivers up the points stable. And for some of the teams, it worked out quite nicely. Pixel being a perfect example. For other teams, CRE being the other perfect example for the inverse, it really didn't work out. They had, I think it was 6-7 cars entered. They only had one car finish, as opposed to Pixel, who entered entered 3 of their cars. The John McDonald and Lewis Wedding car wasn't able to race, so Lewis Wedding subbed across to the Hans Brunswick Lockie Burt car. But of the 3 cars that started, I think all 3 of them ended up finishing. And crucially, what that meant for Pixel is they now lead the team's championship points over CRE.
Yeah, big swing in terms of the point standings, which we will take a look at in just a handful of minutes' time. Just a couple of brief notes. Actually, just before we went on air, it looked like Discord actually started to have a whole bunch of issues. A number of drivers having some trouble loading some messages in Discord. Did the right thing, usually a whole case of close Discord and restart it, and then they're getting IP bans, and it's happening to like everybody up and down the field. We not quite sure why, so we're currently in a process of trying to work out how on earth to conduct the driver's briefing, which is usually happening right about now. It's a very, very unusual situation, something we've never ever had before. And we're working through that particular moment in time right now. Thankfully, Brenton Foley and Lewis and Brendan Ross, the other admins, are in the process of trying to figure out what to do. But we're sitting here waiting with bated breath, Roddy, just making sure everybody knows what's going on tonight.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run through my head quickly how sort of what we can do from the point of view that my other league that I'm with also runs a lot of their stuff out of Discord. Obviously, makes sense. And we've since moved ourselves into using ourselves, I mean, my other league, because of the new integrations with Xbox. We use Discord chats rather than voice chats. It means we can have more than 16 people in a chat. It means we can have the entire lobby in one chat, which is brilliant for when you're running a multi-class enduro, because you can actually have the upper class communicate with the bottom class rather than just running them off the road without talking to them first. But we had an issue, which seems to be what's happening now, that and I was not awake at the time, so I read about it in post. But we're having issues where people who were already in a chat could stay in a chat, but people that were trying to move to a new chat or trying to join a chat couldn't actively join the chat. And it seems to be worse than that. But we mentioned Foley, perhaps another one that's been hit, getting IP bans, and it seems to just be a thing from changing stuff. Also, I've got issues where half of my messages aren't loading on PC right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so part of not that we intend to go anywhere anyway, but part of the reason we're safe is that we don't have to move anywhere. The expectation normally is for the drivers that everybody goes from whatever team channel they're sitting in. So, CRE and the SES fellows, and I think with CRE, PBF sit by themselves, Pixel sit by themselves. Everybody will then migrate up to either the casual chat or the racing chat to do the driver's briefing. But if people can't people can't leave. Well, people could, in theory, leave their channels, but they won't be able to get back into their channels. They won't be able to get into the casual chat either. So our best option at the moment, and from what I remember, this lasted for something like half an hour, when it happened, would be within the last 48 hours. yeah, the only option at play there for where we're sitting would probably be that we'd have to do a text-based briefing, which we kind of already do anyway. There is the driver's briefing or the briefing notes that come out in the week of the round, but it doesn't necessarily cover some of the smaller details that people like Brenton Foley, who normally leads the briefings, would like to wrap into it. So some stuff like, perhaps we've noticed something through the last round of stewarding, or we remember, or something that we've picked up in testing, or something we saw in practice that we're like, okay, guys, we didn't actually have a chance to officially note this, but we'd like to include this as well. That's the sort of stuff that might get impacted. But yeah, I've got thankfully it plays nicely on my phone, so it seems to be something curious there. But I'm trying to pick up on what is actually going on to see what we know about it.
Well, we've actually just got a few people in the live chat actually just giving us some heads up that it actually is a Discord issue worldwide. So some of the other guys have believed that it might be a case of DDoS attacks potentially, or something's going on there. But for the moment, as long as there's a connection going, it looks like everything is okay. So we're basically not going to move anywhere from the broadcast booth until we actually lose connection to each other, Rhodey and myself. And if Rhodey does drop out, it's actually going to become a one-man show. So we can run the night without it. We're just going to have to stick to using the text chat for a handful of notes. So what we will do in the interim while we wait for a few things to happen is we will take a look at the track which we are racing at tonight, which of course is Symmons Plains Raceway on the little Apple Isle of Tasmania, just south of Launceston, in a little town called Perth, believe it or not. There is a Perth in Tasmania, as well as there is a Perth in Western Australia. This one's not the capital, but that is where the track is based. And it's a busy little bull ring, this, Rhodey. There's only real 2 overtaking spots on the track, down at turn 4 and then up at turn 6. And that's it. It's pretty much the same length as Barbagallo Raceway on the other side of the country, but it's over in about 2 to 3 seconds less.
Yeah, it's a fun little way to think about it, actually, the mentioning of the local town of Perth. Obviously, Barbagallo isn't set in Perth, it's in the region of Perth, but yeah, that Australia's 2 shortest tracks are both in Perth. as that sort of works out. But yeah, it's as we mentioned, it's not too different in length to Symmons, but it's different characteristics. Symmons is, there's some chunky straights at Symmons at Barbagallo, but a lot of it is sort of really setting up the flow. You come through turn 1, that nice big long turn 1, and you snake and meander your way up and over the hill through the bowl. It's only really the last corner in the sort of the 2 straights that are really a power place, as opposed to Symmons, where Symmons is Sandown, but even more refined to a degree. Most of the corners here, not unlike Sandown, most of the corners here are not high-speed cornering. You've got I think the fastest sort of corner you're really going through is either it's technically turn 3, where the bike chicane splits off, but that's kind of really more just a curved acceleration zone than a proper corner. The fastest corner on the track, realistically, is the last corner, where you're having to accelerate through the corner, and that feels fast because you're dealing with understeer the entire way through it. But there isn't really fast cornering. It's really just about a power build, because you've got the relatively long straight down from turn 3 down to the hairpin, and then you've got the straight out of the hairpin. And not only is that speed dependent, you also need to get a very good exit, because you can lose so much time. And that's the thing with a short track, the loss of time is relative. You something like, say, like a Bathurst, you might get a poor exit and you lose something like a second, and that might cost you 4 or 5 spots. A second around here, especially in qualifying, could be the difference between first and, well, I think it's fair to say we're at risk of a second covering the field. So it's going to matter a whole lot more. But it's one of those. It's a brilliant little track. It's a very easy track to learn, very hard track to master, and mastering is where you're going to pick up the speed, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. And as we said a few moments ago, the place is the same length and has the same number of corners as Barbagallo Raceway on the other side of the country. And I was doing a bit of the math here earlier on, looking at the fuel numbers and just working out why Barbagallo has a slightly lesser fuel burn than Symmons Plains. And it's pretty obvious when you think about it. There is some long straights at Barbagallo. There's some long straights here, but there's not a lot of start-stop at Barbagallo compared to Symmons Plains. So you've actually got some pretty decent traction zones where you've got to put the power down, and you have to put it down at full power. So where you can save a little bit going, up the hill because you're not on power, or going into the braking zone, you've got quite a lot of, long loaded corners at Barbagallo. Whereas here, the long loaded corner really is turn number 5, and it's taken full throttle here at Symmons Plains. So that's why the fuel burn is a little bit higher. Fuel's not going to be the major factor tonight either. It's going to be the tyre wear. So hard and soft tyres are in play, but there is no compulsory stop, and we don't expect anybody to really go at it with the hard tyre tonight, rather. But just about making sure that they stay in that nice little window and you don't over-abuse them before the end of your 21-lap race is up. Because we did see a few drivers in the development series just try and stretch it just a little bit too far sometimes, because they did have compulsory pit stops in their races. And, it's enough if you take it a little bit too far in a situation like that, that you will be jumped, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing to play as well, is just the... if you are pitting, and I think, to be fair, a lot of discussion I've heard from some of the drivers, I have to remember, actually, I don't think we're on any compulsory stops. I think a lot of discussion I've heard from the drivers is they're potentially going to try and no stop it. But yeah, if you are going to end up pitting as part of your strategy, it's very much going to call into where you come, because the lane isn't like physically a long lane, but it's just with how short the lap is, that you're going to end up in a situation where you're pretty close to falling a lap down if you're not careful. And obviously, I think we'll be more than likely to see a whole bunch of drivers dive in if there's a safety car, which completely nullifies that effect. But that'll come in the race, and we're not getting to the race just yet. We're about to start qualifying.
We are indeed, and actually getting some word that Discord may have actually recovered. But just as a timely reminder, Nathan Higginson's dropped it into the chat, and actually probably a very good idea, if it has potentially been under attack, probably a good idea to rotate your Discord passwords now, everybody, or give it some very, very serious thought, because it probably won't be too long if it has been DDoSed or any data's gone AWOL, that people are going to be starting to try all sorts of passwords on different people's accounts. So probably not something you want to be doing in the next couple of days or so. And I'll tell you what, Rhodey, qualifying's about to get underway. Have a look at this logjam in pit lane. It is absolutely nuts to butts. This is a busy little track, and the two CRE Anson cars have got the jump on the field here, and they are gone. It's only 10 minutes. Every single qualifying session in the regular season outside of the Enduros is 10 minutes long, so there is virtually no time on the clock to get your laps done. You've got to get out, you've got to get into the groove, and especially on a track like this, you have got to find a rhythm, and you've got to find some space, because it'll get very, very congested very, very quickly. If you come in from doing a 2 or 3 lap run and then you go out of the pits, finding your position on track again is crucial at this little bull ring.
Yeah, you want to be out in within the next 20 seconds or so. Realistically, you almost lost your chance now. If you're not in the pit lane or not already on track, you're in trouble because you get caught by Coxie. But those who are coming out mid-session, you're going to have a really hard time finding some clean air. Yeah, you certainly are going to have a thing. Or as Foley has a little bit of a moment at the second to last corner there, that's going to ruin his start to his lap. And that was right in front of Lockie Lock, and he's coming up the front straight as well now too. So, all right, the conveyor belt of hot laps now commences, and who's going to be at the top of this timesheets after 10 minutes has elapsed? We're about to find out in the next 8 3/4 minutes. So if you're going through turn 1, 2, long loaded corner of 3, big drag strip all the way down to turn number 4, braking sort of around about 125. It's the slowest corner on any circuit that we visit here. There's a couple of different lines. Lock sort of opting for the high line there, staying well away from the apex of the corner or the inside of the corner, using the cambered approach to the corner to try and turn the car. Some drivers will go a little bit deeper into the corner, V the corner off and cut back sharply, and then try and get to the gas as quickly as possible for the run up to turn number 6. Turn 5 is basically flat out. And then this is the corner you were talking about, Brady. Final corner. The understeer is real at that corner. You're on power. You're trying to get the car turned in, and it just doesn't want to work. It just wants to just continually push right, and more right. And then there's grass waiting for you on the outside if you get it wrong. Lock's time was good enough for 4th. With Rosella, the first of the flying laps so far. Top time sheets, 51, just a hair under a 51.1. Yeah, and it's going to be pretty tight at the top from what I understand. Obviously, Luke Rosella and Will Devonish buying in there. A couple of names, though, that have been in the pointy end of the sheet at various points in practice this week. One is Scott Murrell. He's out there currently out of Dev Series this week. It's actually not his first Super 2 appearance, his first in a while. He's running PBF number 12 tonight, but he at one point was threatening Will to take some fuel out of his car. So Murrell's best was I think, 1-3 in practice. He's not quite getting there at the moment in qualifying, but we know he's got potential for it. The other one as well, who is just sitting ahead of Scott on the timing sheet currently, and it's a name we haven't seen for almost 2 years, Lime Mitch, aka Mitch McGovern, has returned, and he was at one point quicker than Will. Speaking of Will, he's been assisted into a spin by Luke Rosella.
Yeah, I just saw that on the other side of the screen. That was not something I was expecting to see in qualifying. Let's go and have a look at that on the old replay, because I was about to say we're about to have a bit of a quick chinwag about Lime Mitch, and then on the opposite screen this happened. Now, Rosella had been getting a bit of a tow from Devonish, I think, around the whole entire straight here. And what's Will here? So Will's outbraked himself, still gone through the corner high side, and Rosella's just driven through the rear corner of him. That probably won't go down too well, I'd imagine. That's you can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably just a little bit awkward. It'll be a case of, I suppose, whether in that Will was still trying to push on for a lap, or whether he was perhaps trying to get out of it or whatnot. It's an awkward one. The end result is that I think Rosella went deep at the second last corner. Andor was parking up to have another crack at it, and Will is currently out on his out lap again, so he's had the opportunity to go back to the pit lane, which...
The rounds that remain on the schedule, not sure if he's going to do some Enduro Cup driving or not yet, but for the moment, pretty handy, showing that he's got some good pace there. It's his best time at the moment, good enough for 9th, 51.6, so that's not too terrible. I actually think that's a really good opening sort of stanza for him, and interesting to see how he progresses from here.
Yeah, it's a hard one to sort of benchmark where he's sit on the pace. I'm going to have a look during the warm-up as to where his previous results have put him. But, and just more importantly, who he's racing against. But like, if I go back to like sort of right in the deep of the memory banks, he was racing against Tim Redmond and Steve Burko back when all three of them were in what was Super 2 at the time. Like Burko is in the session. I think I have to find where he is. He's I don't know, 18th currently. So yeah, Mitch is quicker than Burko back to that, but he was quicker than Burko back when they were both in Dev Series from memory. But like, I would have expected a bit of a pace drop off, but to immediately drop back into the top 10, he's, you know, not far off Rossi, and to be fair, Ross, from where Ross was when Mitch was last racing, Ross has maybe fallen off a little bit on pace. But yeah, like and also, as I said, short lap at Symmons, so gaps are a little shorter than would otherwise be for an average track length. But yeah, to, be keeping up with someone, keeping up with on pace with Luke Speck, and we know how well Specky's done in the Dev Series appearances he's made, and popping into Enduro Cup entry as well. He's not far off the back of Noah Tara. We know how quick Noah's been this season. To be fair, Noah's probably a little further off where he'd like to be at the moment. But yeah, in with Noah Tara, Lockie Lock, not far off Anthony Green as well. Yeah,
that's still pretty good. Good to see the two Kiwis, NZ Snipes and Cheese, are back in for their first round in probably about say 5 rounds, probably, Rody. They've missed a good chunk of the middle part of the season through IRL commitments, so they're out there pounding around and churning some laps. And for a while, Snipes was sitting comfortably inside the top 10. He had a really good streak of good results going there, and then real life things get in the way. Not to mention the Warriors actually doing really well this year, just missing out on the grand final, so a good season for them as well. But now getting back to all things sim racing. In the mid-pack at the moment for Snipes, 12th overall. Cheese a bit further down the order, sitting in 17th at the moment. No one's really setting the timing tree alight at the moment. Most of the early laps done. Oh, they've both gone off. Both of them gone off at the final call. One Termo's gone down the escape road as well and goes back to the pits. So there's a few people just come a cropper at turn 4 in the last 10 seconds or so. And they've got a handful of minutes to get back out, get a new set of boots on and get going. I don't know about you, Rody. I remember the development series round here a week ago, and I started to get the impression that it took about at least a lap to get the tyres into a good operating window, and then you probably have to do maybe 2 or 3 laps consistently before you probably got that time. That was the better time coming on lap 2 or 3 out of that run. Lap 1 out of the box, you have to absolutely nail it, but I don't think a lot of drivers were quite able to do that.
Yeah, I remember discussions being had, and this was going off of people like perhaps talking about someone actually knows what they're talking about rather than just me wobbling around Super 3. Yeah, discussions on tyres taking, like you couldn't really have a full go on the first lap. The other thing to think about as well, it's more of a thing for the race setting, but like brake temperature, more of a thing on this track than a lot of other tracks, just with where the hairpin is and how the hairpin is, and the fact that your braking distance changes by about 50 metres with cold brakes. But yeah, the tyre temp, you're just not really, like, I'm not going to say you're not loading the tyres, because I popped a front right in race 2, so you do load the tyres around here, but you don't really sort of jack a lot of heat into them in one lap. It's the long loading and the slow heating that eventually kills them, but it's the slow heating that you got to worry about in qualifying as well. So yeah, you can't sort of do an out and a run, you can't really do an out and then a lap and then an in lap. You really have to commit sort of a 3 or 4 lap quali session.
Yeah, you've got to sort of get that little bit of an air margin, or get in the toe of somebody, run those 2 to 3 laps, get into the pits, make any adjustments you want to make, get a new set of boots on, go again. That's sort of the philosophy here. And what philosophy at most tracks, a lot of drivers will try and split it into, 2 sort of runs, try and get their best time potentially in the second run once they've had a chance to see how the track's playing out. We're inside the last 45 seconds now of qualifying. There's plenty of drivers still with some work to do. 1.2 seconds covers the field, first to 21st at the moment. Oh, Anthony Green goes for a wild ride. He's not going to be taking any further part. I was about to say all the cars are out on track, bar Cam Rutledge. Make that Anthony Green as well now. He's in the pits and no further part in proceedings. Luke Rosell is just starting his final lap at the moment, heading off towards turn number 4. Has the field got anything more in reserve for him at the moment when it comes to the last few minutes of the session? Will Devonish will get to the line with about 6 or so seconds to spare. Actually make it 5 seconds to spare. Improves his time, doesn't improve the place. Turmo gets across the line, he'll get another lap. The clock has now gone 0. And Will Devonish will not be setting another lap. He's going to be over and done with there. So pole is safe for Luke Rosella at the moment. The real question is, has anybody else got anything for him? Rosella moves over and hands over to Brendan Ross. So Brendan Ross got a bit of a tow heading up through turn 5. I don't think it's going to help though, because through the final corner comes Ross. He's well wide of the apex there and he's backed out of it. So I think he realises, nope, he went a little bit too deep at the final corner there and couldn't quite make anything happen. Steve Burko through the final sequence of corners here. Not too far off his own time, but has he got anything in the last few seconds to improve? No, he doesn't. He runs wide at the final corner and slaps the outside fence at the pit lane, and he is done.
Yeah, Jesse Bennett in the wall too. A lot of drivers, as I said, trying to make the most. Termo's actually, I think Termo made it across the line before he wobbled. But yeah, a few drivers throwing everything and the kitchen sink at the last corner, trying to get some time up. And it's a very easy place to try and gain time, very easy place to lose time as well. That understeer can kick in and really make things unfun, as a way to put it.
So the margin got down between 1st to 21st, 1.115 seconds. So just over a second covers the entire field at Symmons Plains. And that's typically what happens here. It is one of those tracks where the margins are very, very fine. So it's another pole for Luke Rosella. So keeps going on his merry way. That's a good run he's got going there at the moment. Will Devonish will be alongside him. Noah Tara jumped Dane McKenzie late in that session. So Dane was sitting 3rd for most of that session and drops to 4th after all of that. And then Lockie Lock in 5th. He moved up late from Brendan Ross. And then Igmanis 7th with Anthony Green, who's substituting this week for Bailey Hall in 8th. That's a good result for him. Actually, best of the wildcards from Cam Rutledge and Luke Speck. So Luke Speck inside the top 10 as well. So that's something we probably wouldn't have been saying at the beginning of the night, that we were looking forward to Luke Speck having a top 10 finish, but got his first run in wildcarding for Supercars after moving into Super 2 ranks in Development Series, and already with a good result.
Yeah, as I said, he's been running in the enduros as well. But yeah, it's a good start for him in a solo driver capacity. A lot of drivers actually benefiting from. He is only down in 14th currently, but Scott Murrell was quite eager as well to get into practice this week, start setting up for Supercars. But he's managed to find a setup that's worked. Him and Brap have sat down and done a bit of work together. Brap's not here tonight, unfortunately. Uni work has meant that he's not able to turn up, but he was looking at it. He was about an hour or so today where he was like, oh no, maybe I can make it, and then decided no, actually probably I can't. But a couple of the guys from Dev Series have been sitting down working together and figuring out how best to get a setup working. And to be fair, I think a lot of their setup is just bringing the Dev Series setup across to Supercars and making a few tweaks from there.
Yeah, having a look at Scott Murrell's time, actually, he did a 51.707, and his pole lap in Development Series last week, just 7 days ago, was a 51.6. So good to see his pace has translated quite well, but the pole time in this case is just under 0.8 of a second adrift, but it's a tall order to try and snaffle a pole position off of either Luke Rosella or Will Devenish in this year's championship. The only other person that's been able to do it is Curtis Igmanis or Termo, and that pole is actually shared between himself and Will Devenish as we go over and have a look at the driver's standings. With thanks to CRE Electrical, you can see it there. Will Devenish with 8 poles, but one of those shared with his teammate because of their Sandown 400 pole position from qualifying and the 2 race for the grid races. They put them on pole for the 400 a couple of weeks ago, and Luke Rosella now moves his tally on to 5. So with you can do the math there, with at least 4 more rounds to go, and 4 more poles to be decided, because there's actually 2 at a couple of the rounds to go. That is still very much an open race for pole position honours between now and the end of the season. And if you look to the right-hand side there, how the points have shifted, Rhodey. My. How on earth have these points shifted? So, Will Devenish, no points. And Termo, Curtis Igmanis, no points from the Sandown 400. They stayed where they were. And Redmond and Ross and Foley closed the door, or closed the margin, rather, on the man at the top of the point standings. And Noah Turra, no points as well. Same with Lockie Lock. So they stayed where they were. It was not a good round for CRE at Sandown.
No, in the end, as I said, only one of their cars ended up finishing. I say that only one of the cars ended up finishing, but I don't actually think any of their actual drivers, as it were, got points, because I think in the end it was Anthony Green. I'm trying to remember who was running with him, but it was one of the Darren Lognan. Neither of which are actually CRE drivers. They were just brought up to fill out the enduro ranks. So no CRE drivers at all scored points after Sandown, which is a shame for them. Actually, I say that Steve, Burko was a DNF as well. Yeah. So but it's just swings and roundabouts of it sometimes, and it's just the way that the luck fell. So it went from a situation where they could maybe not lock in a team's championship, but definitely pad it out quite nicely, to a point where Will's now a bit more vulnerable than he was. He's still it's still going to be act of God stuff for him to lose the championship from this point, just based on how everyone around him tends to keep scoring points, and he keeps scoring points every race. But it's going to require some sort of intervention for that to change. But that said, I mean, Tim Redmond's, I think, arguably the closest he's been all year to actually having a crack at this championship, and he's not here tonight, which is going to sting, because he's already taken his drop round at the first round of the season. So he's going to have a big fat 0 off tonight as well. But then bringing Ross and Foley into it. But then, just the big shuffle it's had. The back half of the top 10 are all DNFs, which has brought, or almost the entire back half of the top 10 is all DNFs, which has brought Pete Thrower back into it. Obviously, Luke Rosella with a win, that jumped him up quite a bit, but also the DNFs helped out as well. Even to the point where Lewis Wedding, who's no longer a regular season entrant, he's potentially in the window. If something like this happens again, he's going to be back in the top 10 of the drivers' standings.
Yeah, potentially. And the big talking point you mentioned there, and we haven't spoken about it much this year, we're probably going to talk about it more when we get to the last round or 2 of the season, the drop round. So some drivers have already taken the pain. They've already dropped 0. But if you drop more than 1-0, then you're in a bit of a pickle. People like Will Devenish and Termo, they'll be dropping 0 for the Sandown round, because they are allowed to drop it. Those that are sort of mid-season entrants, even though they're not in line to really threaten the back end of the championship like a Luke Rosella, he came into the season at the midway point, roughly. I think it was the bend was the first time we saw him. So he's in a position where if he's going to drop any points, they'll drop from the time he entered the championship. So, it's unfair for, him to be dropping 0 points when he hasn't contested the full season. So there'll be, still a bit of change for that to happen. That doesn't affect the team's points potentially as well, because each car has also got to drop its worst round as well from when it had a pilot aboard. So there's a few swings and permutations yet to fully play out in the Drivers' Championship, but it will also upset the Teams' Championship when that happens. And as you saw there, the two real Holden Pixel Racing team cars both got home in the Teams' Championship for Sandown at the 400. So they banked a huge ton of points after all that. So that's why they have jumped CRE Engineering, only to the tune of, was it 48 points there? So there's not a lot in it, but it is a massive swing in between rounds. And the rest of the field virtually stayed where they were, apart from the only other change, which was the Fuchs HSP dealer team entry, which was had Kurt Stenberg at the wheel. I think it was Zach Brown. They jumped up above the Beyond Racing Team Tanifer guys just because they had a car in the 400 and the other Team Tanifer guys did not. So that's a team that's not had the full complement of drivers in throughout the year, and they've been jumped as a result there. But again, mostly everybody else stayed where they were, and a number of teams gained some points. So Beyond Racing gained, PBF Race Engineering gained some points, Amped Up Racing, CRE Engineering, they both gained nothing. Same with the CRE Anson Motorsport guys, they gained nothing because they didn't have any of their cars finish in that Sandown 400 race. So hoping for some better luck to follow when they get to the mountain. It is calling, Rody, just a couple of weeks away.
Absolutely, yeah. We're not too far away from that, but what we're even closer to is we're not far off the start of race one, and we have had a couple of people jump in the server last minute. We have
Phil Boak.
Being joined by Phil Boak. So we are going to have 3 of the 4 PBF cars here tonight. We understand Zach Brown will be present at some point, but not for race 1.
Yeah, he was sort of umming and ahhing if he was actually going to make it. I think he's possibly going to make either race 2 and race 3, or we're not too entirely sure just yet. Probably some real life commitments there as well. It has thrown up a few challenges this round as well, because the daylight savings has kicked in for the Kiwis, and it kicks in a week, always 1 week before us here on the east coast of Australia. So just something that everybody will probably need to be aware of moving forward, is that at the end of this weekend, actually it's on Sunday, daylight savings for the east, for most of Australia kicks in. That will change the dynamic. It'll put the 2-hour difference between the east coast and New Zealand back into play. It'll unfortunately mean for Queensland and Western Australia, they fall 1 hour further back from the eastern seaboard time, or the Melbourne time, which the server's based off of, and all the race night proceedings are based off of. So they'll need to fix all that stuff up and just make sure they're good for the second half of the, also for the last couple of months of the season. Just a very, very quick moment here. It looks like there was one person who has just had a bit of a moment, just waiting for them to jump back into the race proceedings. And we will we'll be getting ready to go again very, very shortly.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking through things, the way things are going to fall out with this with the Dallas Savings kicking in. I know start of the season, I can recall, and I recall various points throughout the years that Rossi's had issues being a Queenslander getting home in time for the racing. It's really interesting where this falls out, because, and potentially there might still be around, like, I don't think they're going to lose a team's championship tonight, Pixel, but if Rossi starts having issues making races, he's perhaps advantaged by the fact that we've got no sprint racing left in the season. They're all big races. But yeah, if he has an issue popping up at some point, even just isn't able to get the practice in, isn't able to get to pace, that might be what turns out to be the difference in the team standing. Because I know that is a big thing for the Pixel guys this year. They want to win the team's championship after watching CRE win it for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I mean, for Brendan Ross, especially, and some of the other Queenslanders as well, the next 2 rounds occur on weekends for them. So the Bathurst 500, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Pukekohe 500 is going to be a Saturday, Sunday as well. So it's not all doom and gloom for Brendan Ross. You still got a good chunk of time to get some points on the board, and then the Adelaide round is at the beginning of December. So there's a lot of time still to work out all the last pieces of that puzzle as well. All right, we are getting ready for the first race of the evening. I'm just waiting on a few drivers to just finally make their way onto the circuit. And we're looking at the back of the field here. Darren Lockton filling in for Ben Hall there. And now up to the front row of the grid. Race 23 of the championship season. About to get underway, ready.
Yeah, and it's going to be a bit of a rush to get through. It hasn't been since Barbagallo that we've had an outlap quite this short to work with. But give him a few more seconds.
We may as well start rocking through the grid now.
Fair enough then. All right, so starting off pole will be Luke Rosella for the Real Holden Pixel Racing team. Very much, as I said, trying to buy into that team championship standing, which is now the top 10 of the driver's standings as well after Sandown. Second will be Will Devich for Seri Engineering. He's the first of the Mustangs, and he's trying to get back that team's championship lead. Third is Noah Turrer, the first of the Amped Up Racing Seri Mustangs. He's done very well to end up in third, with Dane McKenzie up in fourth. He was convinced as per ever, he's convinced he's lost the pace, and with the fourth, I don't think he's quite there yet. Fifth is Lockie Lock. He's running a throwback to the Army Reserve XD Falcon. This was initially meant to be a Sandown car, but the green eye also came up instead, so that's why he's running this in Symmons. Sixth is Brendan Ross, the second of the Pixel Commodores. So they're playing at sixth place tonight. Seventh is Curtis Egmanis. He's running his Hendrick Kyle Larson livery tonight. Maybe perhaps an inference to how the racing is going to go, but we'll see how that turns out for Termo. Eighth is Anthony Green filling in for Bailey Hall tonight for Beyond Racing Young Guns. I think this is the furthest up we've seen of Beyond car this season. Ninth is Cam Rutledge for Seri Motorsport. Good run for Cam to get into the top 10 in qualifying, with Luke Speck in 10th for Supercheap Auto Racing Wildcard. 11th is Brendan Foley for PBF Trans Engineering, just at the top 10. Pretty good run for Foley, the first of the PBF cars. With Lime Mitch back in that familiar monster colour scheme we know him for in the past in 12th. 13th is NZ Snarps for Beyond Racing Team Hanafer. Good to see he's back on the grid, and hopefully for the rest of the season, with Scotty Murrell in 14th for PBF Motorsport in the Superlight entry. Jesse Bennett is in 15th, filling for Tim Redmond, so it's the furthest back we've seen this car for a while, but hopefully he can make some moves with it. With Steve Warwick in 16th in the sister car of Pete Thrower. He's also not able to make it tonight. 17th is Daniel Cox, the second of Seri Anson Motorsport Commodores, with Nathan Higginson up in 18th position. 19th is Cheese, 20th is Steve Burko, and Boak and Logner at the back, and we're at the start already.
That was very quick run through, and here we go. Race 23 of the championship underway. Whole shot, Luke Rosella storms away from pole position. Good start. Devonish tucks in behind, and then the outside group's got a little bit of work to do going through the first couple of corners, because the first two corners go left, and then they get up to the rise here through turn 3 and head down towards the hairpin. And Rosella's charging already, trying to get an air margin as quickly as possible. There's a car in a fence a bit further back. It looked like it might have been Cam Rutledge. Oh, there's some carnage at the back as well. It's almost a bit like Symmons Plains back in the day, but just not as worse, where a few of the Nissans and things got their windows taken off. And the safety car called. Unsurprising, very, very early safety car here. And I think that was Loughnane with a braking mistake, getting into the back of several drivers there on the run to the hairpin. There was a couple of cars involved in that. There was at least one that was in the fence, I think. It might have been Cam Rutledge. I'm going to go back and have a bit of a look and see if we can pick this one out, because there was a car in the fence up in the early part of that run to the flag there. So we'll get this on the replay. Let's have a little bit of a look now and see if we can sort of decipher what happened here. Down the chute, there's a bit of biff and barge. Keep your eye on the front of shot here. What happens to Cam Rutledge? Oh, under brakes and got nudged by Foley, so that explains that. And then he got into Green, who got into Turmo, and then there was a bit of a logjam going into that sort of final sequence of corners. Then when we wind it back, and then you have a bit more of a look at what actually happened there. We go a bit further back in the field, you can see the likes of, you've got Murrell all the way back here. Here's Darren Loughnane, and did he get some help? Yeah, he got some help from Burko, and then that got him into Folk, and then Murrell innocently caught up in it there as well. So there was a lot going on that opening run to the hairpin.
Yeah, I was just looking back at the second incident myself, and yeah, it was just a sequence of unfortunate events. It seemed that the first two that was going to happen, but in the end, for them to bounce into Boak was a bit of luck. For Boak to then bounce into Murrell was a bit of luck. And Murrell actually on the back of Cheese, but Cheese was at a stable enough position with his car that it didn't really affect his performance. But yeah, that was just a easy mistake from one driver. It's just with where everyone's positioned on the first racing lap, it just set everyone up into a move. But yeah, look, the chances of a safety car, we haven't really delved into any of the DCD race facts, but I know just going off of Dev Series and how the race has gone here in the past, Symmons does tend to like to breed a safety car at some point. We had safety cars in both the Dev Series races last week, and we got an early one now, which if you were thinking about getting new tyres, you probably wouldn't right now, but I mean, that said, it might help to have tyres a lap or two fresh at the back end, I don't know. I think most drivers, if they were planning on pitting though, would probably want the safety car to have been in about 10 laps.
Yeah, so those that were involved in the incident have come into the pit lane, so the likes of Boak, Lockman and Burko have all come in. I'm not sure if Murrell has, but he's now on the back of the train. Interesting you actually talk about the DCD race facts, because let's have a look at them. The Symmons Plains Raceway. The pit stops, of course, are optional. It's a slightly higher fuel burn than the track we've been talking about on the other side of the country at Barbagallo Raceway. The soft and the hard tyres are available, but we don't expect too many drivers to be taking anything to do with the hard tyres this particular weekend. And the big note there, I mean, you talked about a few seconds ago, Roddy, we do have a lot of safety cars here, and the kind of racing that we have at this track sort of tends to suggest that the safety car appears. It's a sprint race, or sprint races plural, because there's 3 of them tonight, back to back to back, and they are the last sprints for 2023. So if you drivers looking for some good results in these short, sharp affairs that like to, that seem to do pretty well at them, they're going to be looking for some good results. But when you have a few little things happen at the back of the pack, that's not usually a good start to your night. And the problem for a lot of drivers is if you're starting at the back, the only place you can go is forward. But then when you make mistakes, you end up at the back again. So there's a progressive grid sort of format here. So it is imperative that you are clean trying to get through the field.
Yeah, this is the format more than any other that rewards the patience. So by all means, do your best, try and put yourself where you want to be, but you really are better off taking a little bit of patience in the first race and saving up that last race dive, or last lap dive for races 2 or race 3.
But speaking of,
we should be going back to green. Yeah, I see safety car pulling away from the head of the field.
Yeah, and Rosella's got control of the field, and he got it pretty early at turn 5, which is what we've been asking the drivers to do. There is a small 10-second stop-go penalty here, which has been applied. That'll just be because Luke's been hanging back from the safety car. That will be cleared as he gets proceedings back underway here. So he's followed the safety car protocols exactly as requested, and he will have that penalty cleared. And I don't think there's anybody else that has a penalty up and down the field. So clean restart, everybody underway, single file, a little bit of action at the back. Looks like there was 1 or 2 cars making a dive at turn 2, but we are back underway again here at lap 5.
Absolutely, and no big surprise there with Luke Rosella already starting to stretch away from the field. Will Devonish actually maybe trying to pull away, but not quite comfortably out of the run yet. A lot of the drivers now getting back into this mindset. You've got cold brakes, so you can't really take the hairpin the way you want to in racing speed and
That was a little bit of, I think, not sure if Brenton Foley gave a position there to NZ Snipes, because Foley's dropping back through the field. He had lost a ton of momentum off the hairpin there. There was a little bit of a faint pass from Snipes, but Foley has started to really get his ears boxed in here. He's about to lose a 3rd spot potentially to the Beyond car, the Redmond car that's being piloted this weekend by Jesse Bennett, and now gets back up to speed. That was a very, very unusual situation for Foley. He sort of lost a lot of speed.
It looks like he might have been having shifted drama, because it looks like he was stuck in 3rd gear for a long time. I know we had a couple of guys in Dev Series miss shifts out of the hairpin, but it looks like it doesn't look like a miss shift. It looks like just a shift wouldn't happen at all.
Well, he's sort of stuck back in here, and then Lime Mitch is going to stick his nose down the inside of Jesse at the hairpin, and he lost out there because he toured the grass a little bit here.
And car in the wall in the back, it's the thrower car, but it's not throw in it. That'll be Steve Warwick, who ran into the tyre barrier at the hairpin.
So there we go. So while we were looking at a few different things here, Luke Rosella has just started to become harassed here by Will Devonish after the first flying lap after the safety car restart here. Devonish was all over him heading down toward the hairpin, And we were expecting Rosella might try and march away here, but a little bit of a tardy lap. And Devonish is quite firmly in the tow there. Kenzie in the tow of him, followed by Turra, and then Ross in the second of the Pixel Motorsport Commodores.
Yeah, this is a hard track. This can be a hard track to pull, to try and pull away on, simply because of the strength of the draft. It was the same thing we saw with the Pixel guys in qualifying. It was attempting something similar to what we saw from them in Watkins Glen, which nearly paid off as well. But same sort of thing. You can be very good through the corners, but as long as whoever is following you can keep up with you and sort of be within DRS range, as it were, and keep up on the straights. And Will's trying to set up a move there, but I'm not really sure what he thought was going to happen there. Maybe trying to panic Luke into throwing it wide so that he could go for an over-under, but it didn't quite work out. And in the back of shot, there's also a little battle going on. Fastest laps flying in again for Dane McKenzie and Noah Turra, who are technically teammates by virtue of the CRE banner, but they're not really behaving like it right now. They're having a good little scrap over third.
Yeah, they certainly are having a good little scrap over third. I thought it was some early defence there from Rosella, extremely early heading out of turn 5, moved it over to the left-hand side for 6, and that basically gave Will the opportunity to say, if you wanted to make the passing move, go the long way around. There's actually another little battle unfolding here. Might be a change for 11th place. Higginson tried this move on Bennett a lap ago and ran wide at the hairpin. He's got it done that time. Moves beyond racing. Young Guns car up into 11th place. His stablemate for the weekend's doing quite well with Anthony Green quite far up the order. He's up to 8. That's where he started. So some good haul of points coming their way if they can finish where they are right now.
Yeah, just it was just an attempted move at the second last corner between Will Devonish and Lucas Ellie. Very just sort of skated in on the rears, trying to get some speed out of it. We've got Pleb Symmons in the chat, which I believe will actually be Kurt Stenberg. So I did see him in the chat with Rosella earlier, so he'll be keeping an eye on what's happening for the 88. I imagine the 888. From what he's saying, they reckon that Will's got the faster car. So it is up to, if that's the case, it is up to Will to set this pass up.
Yeah, he's got to make it happen at some point around the track. That's the bit that we sort of don't know yet. Like at the moment, Luke's defending in all the right spots. So keep an eye on that one. Here's that battle for third that you were talking about between the stablemates. I guess they're not teammates, they're stablemates by virtue of the CRE banners on all the cars and the naming rights that are all over the team names. So Mackenzie following Turra at the moment. And I guess if the Pleb Sim Sport guys are saying that Will Devonish has the faster car at the minute, that's just been illustrated by the fastest lap of the race being turned in the toe of Luke Rosella, it has to be said, at that particular juncture. How's Live Mitch tracking at the moment? So he's up to 13th. He started 12th. He's just dropped back here behind Jesse Bennett. He might try and set this move up down the hairpin here at turn number 4 under brakes. And nice pass. Very good.
Yeah. Half the fun for Jesse, for Mitch more so is going to be a lot of the guys in this field he won't know. A lot of the guys in the field, especially where he's racing, he hasn't raced against. So look at the guys around him. We go back 2 years ago. I think Cox at the time would have been Dev Series. Speck wasn't here. Jesse Bennett wasn't here. Who's trying to set up another move down the inside and bit of contact. Oh, he's forced it. Oh, that was a bit messy.
A little bit awkward there at the hairpin. That's also going to drop a couple of spots for Mitch as well. And you're right, this will be about a half a dozen, I reckon, of the drivers that are in this race. He would know. And the other half, he wouldn't have the slightest clue who they were. He wouldn't have raced against them in Dev Series. He wouldn't have raced against them in Supercars. A couple of guys he might have, actually. I think Daniel Cox, I remember he probably did race against us, just ahead of him on the track here at the moment, as Bennett actually is giving up that spot. So he knows that he's done wrong there and probably forced Mitch wide. So he's redressed that spot. And actually, that's probably a sensible way of doing it. Get that redress done in the race. And, you're not going to lose a whole bunch of time as if you had held that spot. It's pretty much a slam dunk, 30 seconds on the wrist, and there's no arguments.
Exactly, yeah. So that's addressed that pretty quickly. In the end, Mitch has lost a little bit of time, but it would be, if the penalty does come, that will be a lot smaller as a result of the redress.
Yeah, no, you're right. Take the pain now of doing it in the race and have an opportunity to correct it, rather than take a bigger punishment a bit later on. A lot of lock brakes going into turn 1 and 2. It's a very, very common thing to do. Plenty of drivers in the development series did that in their races on Friday night. I don't know about you, Brody. I'm not sure what the strategy is for how you want to try and brake heading up into turn number 1 and 2. A lot of drivers are saying they've sort of got to roll out of it quite early, sort of over the hump. You've got to roll over and get the car turned in, and you don't apply a full smash of the left foot on the brake pedal. You sort of got to ease into it a little bit, because the bump and the hump in the middle of the road can be rather upsetting and very, very easy to lock a front.
Yeah, and mine to the pace bracket, I just expect one to wise. There's a little battle going on around Jesse still. Yeah, just for me, I'm getting on the brakes a little before the rise, just knocking it down one gear, coming over the rise, just completely neutral in the car, because I don't need to accelerate because there's a corner coming. I don't want to brake, so I'm going to ask you to pinch a brake when the car's light. As soon as I'm down the other side of the hill, back on the brakes again, knocking the other 2 gears, getting the thing turned in. Yeah,
it sounds a similar thing to me as well. It's a second gear corner sequence there, and this is as close as Devonish has been here against Luke Rosella. So lap 13, unlucky for some, lucky for others. There's no crisscross opportunity there at turn number 6, and Rosella covers that one off. So picking the defensive line early, this is what we're talking about. And Tara has changed spots with Mackenzie here as well. So what do you think the go is here, Rody? Do you think it's going to be a case of, if Tara's got a little bit of pace on board, Will might just be prepared to let Tara have a little bit of a go at Rosella, or do you think he's going to hold station?
That's a good question, I suppose. They will all be in communication about it. So if something's going to happen, it will be orchestrated properly. It won't. It's unlikely to be a sort of half set up thing. But that said, Will's looking much closer, and Noah was in there as well. I mean, Ross was in there getting faster starts. I think everybody but Rosella has been getting faster starts recently, just by virtue of the toe. But they're all similar pace to Luke. They've just gotten advantage of the toe as well as Luke. So. Yeah, if Will's as quick as, or as Will is as quick, or is quicker at least in car pace than Rosella, then there's a strong chance that Tara's running a similar setup, a strong chance that Dane's running a similar setup. So it's going to be down to driver pace. We've seen Tara's been, I mean, he was in a tight scrap last year for Super 2. He's at the point this year he's comfortably ahead of where we'd expect a first-year Supercars driver to be. But we've all seen Noah's pace elsewhere. We know he's going to be setting up there. Mentioning from Kurt in the chat that it's Luke is essentially just not mirror driving as such, but he's focused on the defensive at this point. He can't pull away from Devonish, so he's just trying to park the bus at every opportunity to really make it hard for Will to get through. And to be fair, he doesn't have too much longer to go to have to do that. I mean, it's a short lap around here, which means we're already at lap 15 of a 21 lap race. There's not too much more time left in this, so it might just be a situation where Rosella might be able to hold off Will to end the race. But yeah, if Noah's on a similar setup, Noah probably has the pace to keep it with Rosella, and perhaps in the last couple of laps, Will throws Noah at Luke to see if he can do something different. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that either, because I was looking at what Luke's lines that he's picking at the moment going around turn 5. He's moving it well off the normal apex for turn 5, so he's actually picking his line extremely early, and he's the lead car. He's entitled to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. Will actually needs to get alongside the left-hand side of Luke Rosella right now. Like, he needs to be there right now to take that avenue away, because otherwise Luke's going to do this all day. You can see he's just running well and truly right down the left-hand side of the track, and he doesn't need to worry about it this time because Will's not close enough for a dive bomb down the inside at 6. He closes the margin down, but whenever Luke realises that Will's too close, he just moves it over through turn 5. He's got the right to do so, completely legal, and takes that avenue away. Yeah, so this is going to be a little run to the flag kind of thing. It very much be it probably will be a pass on at some point, but yeah, it's going to be a case of when and where. And to be fair for Will, if his pace is only just ahead of Rosella's, he's probably going to, within reason, wait as long as possible to reduce the chance of Luke having a crack back at it. That said, that alongside coming out of the hairpin. Yep, Luke Rosella ran deep at the hairpin, and now the opportunity's there. So this is Will's patience game, and this is what you said, Ruddy. These sprint races, they reward patience, and there's a little bit of panel exchange to the point of exchanging paint now, heading up to turn number 6, and now Rosella's on the far side of the circuit, and now going to look for the inside crisscross here, but Devonish is very much awake to it, and all it took was just the constant pressure, and Rosella just missed the braking marker by a couple of metres heading up into turn number 4, and the move was done. Yep, but I wouldn't say this is decided yet. We talked about the strength of the pace of the guys purely, or not necessarily purely, but a lot down to the slipstream. So now it's Rosella with a slipstream, and if these guys are on equal pace, there's a good chance that within reason. Oh no, Will's deep.
Yep,
Will's deep. So he's giving it straight back to, a bit of contact there.
But,
He nearly goes straight back to Rosella.
Yeah, but the important part for Will there, and the lucky part for him there, is he had the high line and he was able to square the car off and get the throttle down much, much quicker than Rosella. That's why he drove away there. So he was very lucky, because Rosella basically did the same thing a lap ago, and it came off worse for wear. Couldn't quite square it off because Will had the inside line. That time there was enough margin that Will was able to get the car squared up and just plant the throttle and said, "Gone."
Yeah, what that has done actually in the end is just little bit by little bit, has brought Noah back into a bit of a slide there for Will as well. It's going to impact his run down the straight. Rosella's going to have the opportunity to pull alongside if he wants to. Yeah,
now Devonish has got to start defending him. Now there's yellow flags out here because there's a car off at the hairpin. That's now been withdrawn. There's a car that's actually got itself going as crisscross over and under at the hairpin as well. So great exchange between his two combatants. Now Noah Turra might buy into this as well. Yep. And he's right in the slipstream too. So now Rosella's got to play attack and defence. Who's that? Is that that's Boak? Phil Boak.
Yeah, he was deep in the hairpin and he's got his bonnet off, so he's made contact with the wall somewhere in all of this, but he's got very smartly out of the way.
He's done a really good job there, because that yellow flag pretty much could have cruelled the passing attempt that Rosella was going to make there, and Boat got going pretty quickly, and that's allowed Devonish just to kick away a little bit. Can Turra keep Rosella interested for long enough that Devonish can make an air margin? We'll even see that one in a minute. Foley's managed to go back to this the front of this little group of 3 or 4 cars that are running around at the moment, 8th and 9th with NZ Snipes. Light Mitch has made his way into the 10 at the expense of Anthony Green.
Yeah, and this is a good little scrap as well. We mentioned they were pretty close on qualifying pace and do pretty good on race pace as well, the pair of them. A lot of drivers are seemingly very much on the last legs of their tyres. And we saw from Dev Series that you didn't get too much longer out of a set of soft tyres. So these guys have been running pretty close to running down to the canvas. But yeah, with a lap left to go, yeah, Foley's in a good position now up ahead of Snipes.
Yeah, he certainly is. Now, Rosella had a bit of a slide job moment, got up to the inside of Will Devonish, and there was a little bit of contact that made them wide at turn number 6. So now with Rosella going back to the head of the queue here, Devonish is trying to stick his nose in there as well and buy into this, heading down towards turn number 4 for the final time. It is absolutely on between the front 3. Now, Rosella's got to pick the line here. Rosella is on the high side. He's got to leave some room to the inside here for Devonish, and he does. And Rosella has some room on the outside for Devonish right until now when he slides back up in front of him. So that was good racing between the two of them. Now down through the fast corner, turn number 5 for the final time. And Rosella has a little bit of an air margin. Just got a bit of overlap there, so Devonish has to leave him some space as he overcommit here. Locks the rears, going into the final sequence of corners, and it'll be right around the outside. Can they hold it? No contact there through the final corner, and Rosella spins out, and Devonish will get that win. But that is a very close run thing. I'd like to see how much margin there was between those two cars going through that final sequence of corners, because that was super tight in the closing stages, with Turra getting home for second and Rosella demoted to third. But I do want to have another look at that, because that was mighty close.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that result doesn't stick. That was that was a bit awkward the whole way around. Still a good run in the end for Rosella to get home in third, but I think he felt he should have been a little higher up, and I can probably agree with him. But yeah, outside of what might go into steering, that was a very tight scrap for the last 2 laps, and I think it's the closest, amongst the closest battles we've seen for the lead all season. Yep,
certainly have. So Devonish, Turra, Rosella, Mackenzie home 4th, Brennan Ross 5th, so still a good haul of points for the Real Holden Pixel Racing team. And then you got Lockie Lock for 6th, Marnus 7th, and then Foley stuck around and held on for 8th, so he did a really good job there. Lime Mitch overhauled NZ Snipes for 9th after that, so he gets up to 9th on his return, so that's a successful return. And Snipes finished 10th ahead of Green, Cox, and then Bennett. And only Phil Boak just 1 lap down, everybody else on the lead lap. Let's actually go and have a look at that. We actually have got the replay ready to go here. It is queued up, and this is the view from Noah Turra heading down into the final sequence of corners on the last lap. So you can see here Rosella got a great run, and he moved to the outside of Devonish there, and there was only a fraction. There's a car's width there, and then on the rears, locking there, and a bit of paint exchange here, and Devonish trying to get in there. That's too hard to call. That is too hard to call from that angle for me.
At least from where we're sitting right now, this isn't a call that we're going to make tonight.
No.
If anything comes of this, it will come from the drivers themselves reviewing the replay post-race or anything going on from there. But in the end, yeah, still a very well fought fight for the win there.
Very well fought fight for the win there, and that snaps a race winning streak that Rosella has had going since he returned at the Bend. So that was in round 6. So he had the 3 races there, the 2 at Townsville, so that's 5. The 2 at Hidden Valley, so that gets to 7. And then the next one after that was, of course, Sandown, the joint win with Brennan Ross. So that was 8 wins in a row and the maximum number of points. So that comes to an end, and Will Devenish gets another one. That's at least how it stands right now. So great start to the race and to the round for the night. And Rody, now we get to reset, and we get to do it all again in a few seconds' time.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just trying to get some points updated with where things are at by virtue of losing live races. We don't quite have the just the refinement, I suppose, that we had, where you could very easily go. I immediately post the race. Right, this is the results. Just by virtue of what we've got as an interim, it doesn't quite have the data come up the same way that I'm used to from live races. So I'm trying to take advantage of what I've got. In the end, I've got the top 15. But it gives us an idea, at least, of where the points are heading. Tim Redmond, obviously, as I mentioned, is one who's out. But yeah, already starting to make moves up, Luke Rosella, with some of the drivers ahead of him. Well, I don't think he's going to actually overhaul some of the guys ahead of him currently, but Lucky Lock did get points, but yeah, with Thrower not getting points, with Leonard Grossel not here tonight as well. Unfortunately, he was ready to race, but woke up this morning and found he had a USB hub that was deciding he didn't want to play ball anymore. And unfortunately, I'm curious on where he went looking, because he said he went to the store to look, but he sent us a photo in the team chat of him out in a country meadow somewhere in his Scirocco. So
did he throw it out?
He perhaps took the long way home, but yeah, in the end, he wasn't able to find the hub he was looking for. Yeah, so that's why he's not here tonight. But by virtue of all that and how that was played out, just off of that race, Rosella already comfortably in the top 10. He's currently sitting in 7th.
Yeah, he was in the top 10 before tonight anyway. So
he was 10. He was 10. Yes. He was in the top 10, but he is moving his way up through. So he's very much just purely by points haulage. I mean, the next challenger he's got to worry about is 300 odd points ahead of him, which is Curtis Egmanis. So he's now at the back of the full-time runners in the point standings as things sit right now.
Absolutely. Looks like we're going to get Zach Brown for race 2 and race 3. He's getting ready to jump in now. So warm-up session's going to run its course for the moment while we have a sort of just a brief 5-minute hold here. I don't know if you want to go and get away and get ready with anything here, Rody, but I'm probably prepared to stay right where I am and just have a bit of a look at what some of these drivers are going to be using the next 5 minutes or so for. A lot of them will probably use it for just doing a bit of fine-tuning. Probably a few practice starts, I'd say, would be in order there as well.
Yep. I know Scotty Morrell's probably going to be bouncing out for a smoke.
Yep, that'll be about right.
Normally any race in between race sessions is just about long enough. He's going to top up on that, and I might do something. Well, I won't do something similar, but I'm going to go refill the water bottle because I've got how much water you go through in these short races.
Yeah, it's starting to become quite a bit warm. So while he goes off to actually to fill his stomach with a little bit of water, it's been quite warm here over the last couple of days. It's been very, very unusually warm finish to summer, also to September on the east coast of Australia. To think that the next day or two is going to be really, really good. And then by the middle of next week, we're going to end up with a whole bucket load of rain that's going to come down and really, soak the ground. It's going to be a very, very interesting summer period. I think I guess it's a timely reminder for everybody. Don't forget daylight savings if you're in South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, New South Wales. That's all, and the ACT. That is happening this weekend. So don't forget to set your clocks forward. And don't forget to have a fire plan ready for this year. They're talking about it being one of the driest summers potentially on record, the potential for, thunderstorms, which means lightning, which means bushfires are very, very easily lit, and that's outside of the dickheads who are arsonists that just have all things to do and nothing better to do than go and make life difficult for a whole bunch of people, not only our emergency services people, but everybody else that lives in those areas and has to evacuate when their stupidity is on display for all to see. I personally don't know what sort of idiot gets their kicks from starting a bushfire, but seriously, if this is another soapbox for the day, ladies and gentlemen, I personally think those people should be shot. If they're caught, they should literally be shot. I don't think anybody would miss them because they have made life an absolute disaster for a lot of people, and I'd be prepared to deal with a few less dickheads in the world than those that want to go and light a bushfire. Anyway, it's a timely reminder for everybody, I should say. Please make sure you are ready for what is potentially going to be a very, very difficult year for a lot of people when it comes to bad weather and potentially the need to get away if a bushfire does come around. Enough of that. We'll focus on some of the on-track activity for the moment. As I did say, there's a few drivers that are definitely out there using the opportunity to fine-tune, using the opportunity to do some practice starts. In the case of Cheese, just the opportunity to turn some laps. In that case, not there. That's the outside of the turn 7 fence. But in his case, I did see in the practice servers earlier this evening, himself and Snipes, they had somewhere north of 70 laps in the 2-hour period that they had been on the circuit, just doing lap after lap after lap. It's been such a long time between them jumping in for rounds that they have just needed to get in and get some pace under their belts and just get some some track time under their belts. Not sure if Brady's back just yet, but track time's key when you haven't been in a series for a handful of rounds.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking as I went to refill the water, that was the conversation we were having as I was leaving, that it's only we're getting the end of September, and it's just tonight because I'm sitting here with running this track with 20 odd cars, and I know that it took me the best part of 3 days to get a promotional photo out of the replay from last week because I had to keep turning settings down every time because I kept running into runtime errors, which doesn't happen for me often. But I imagine my computer's doing its best job of attempting to be a space editor tonight because it is toasty. Like it's the first time since probably March, April that I'm thinking after this I might go get an ice cream. So yeah. I'm probably going to, once we're done, there's a small tub of ice cream sitting in the freezer that's been there for not too long, I hope. I might pop a bowl of ice cream and maybe a banana and find some chocolate sauce or something. But
indulging, Brody.
Possibly a little bit, but it's getting toasty. I'm sitting here and it's normally cold enough every night, but even if I've been wearing like shorts throughout the day because it's getting warm again. But even then, normally you get to the end of the day and it cools down. And you're just like, okay, cool, I'm back to pants. I'm getting quite warm in my pants right now.
Yeah, it's that's what I was saying. It's been an unusual end to summer and sorry, not to summer, to September.
To winter, yeah. September, yeah. But yeah,
being unusually seasonally warm. And it is one of those things that actually we've got a lot of great racing tonight, but we've actually got a GT3 round tomorrow night as well, and it's still going to be quite warm in the late evening. So that'll be a bit of a sweat fest for a few of us, cutting some laps around Magny-Cours. And the next thing that will be happening is the server will go up, and there'll be Bathurst servers up for the next 2 weeks. So I'm actually tempted to pull that server down for 24 hours and give it a bit of respite, do a bit of server maintenance, give it a bit of a clean out with some of the old air canister, make sure all the dust is gone, and then we bring it back up and get it ready for 2 weeks leading up to the biggest weekend of the year for ASR. As the timer goes 0, so not much time left in this session. Only a couple of drivers out there on the track, and the last of those looks like it's Phil Boak. So he's just setting a couple of laps here, and he's actually gone across the line with the timer at 0. So that will be it for the very, very brief warm-up session, or the interlude, as we like to call it, between the two races. There are 3 races tonight, all progressive grid format. And I guess, Reddy, you're keeping tabs on the points there, so you'll be keeping an eye out for who we are likely to have a chat with later on this evening, once all 3 races have been run and won.
Absolutely, yeah, taking the opportunity to use the actual result. The advantage of the progressive grid is that we do technically have the race run results sitting in the chat in the server for 30 seconds while we're setting up the grid for race 2. So I did actually manage to get the results out of that. And moving over now to race 2.
We certainly are getting ready for race 2. It's the first time, I think, this year, I could be wrong, we potentially have 2 Mustangs on the front row of the grid. If it's been the case, I think the last time we probably saw this, it might have been Devonish and Redmond, probably maybe back in one of the early rounds of the season, but this time 2 CRE aligned Mustangs on the front row.
Yeah, it's been the first time in a while that we've seen CRE cars at the front. I'm not sure if they... I have to go back and check if there were Mustangs, but I think we're going back to sort of Calder Park where I know Dane Liccardo was poking up a pointy end, but I'll worry about that later. Starting from pole is Will Devonish for CR Engineering, as we were just saying. So one of the 2 Mustangs on the front row. Sharing the front row with him is Noah Tara. I don't think it's the first time he's on the front row, but it's the first time in a while for Noah Tara for Amdot Racing by CRE. Third is Luke Rosell, the first of the Real Holm Pixel Racing Team Commodores, with Dane McKenzie in 4th, CRE Performance Racing. He's had a good result in race 1. 5th is Brendan Ross, the second of the Real Holm Pixel Racing Team Commodores, with Lockie Lock in 6th in the Army Reserve CRE amped up Mustang. It's a very good livery. 7th is Kodos Ekmanis in his Kyle Larson throwback from Watkins Glen, with Foley in 8th in his regular season car. 9th is Lime Mitch in the Monster Energy colours. He's done a very good race 1 as well, with NZ Snipes in 10th. 11th is Anthony Green, doing a good job filling in for Beyond Racing Young Guns points, good teams points in there, with Daniel Cox in 12th. Quite a little run for him in the first race. 13th is Jesse Venner, who actually managed to hold his own fairly well against some of the Supercars guys, so credit to him on that. With Scott Murrell in 14th, good recovery after being involved in that melee on the first lap. 15th is Luke Speck in the Super Chip Auto Racing wildcard car, with Darren Lockman in 16th. He's filling in at Q Racing for Ben Hall, who can't make it tonight. 17th is Nathan Higginson, who's actually managed to keep his known fairly clean by all things that we've seen so far, which is good to see. 18th is Cam Rutledge, not keeping his nose as clean down in 18th, but he'll make his way back up through the field. 19th is Cheese for Beyond Racing Team Canifer. Good to see he's back, with Steve Burko in his very preferred, it would seem, Interstate Batteries livery. 21st is Steve Warwick for Beyond Racing, and 27th is Phil Boak for PBF Motorsport. And we were supposed to see Zach Brown, but he hasn't made it into the server.
Yeah, it looks like he had some issues and then had to drop out, so keep an eye on things for him there. So we get set now for the second race of tonight. Race 24 of the championship of the Tasmania triple header from Symmons Plains Raceway, and another tardy start from Devonish there, with Rosella having to put 2 wheels in the grass to try and make that move around turn number 1, and Noah Tara goes to the lead of this race. It'll be the first time he's led some laps in quite some time around any of the Supercars circuits, probably since the Dev Series, and monstering the back of the CRE electrical Mustang was Luke Rosella going through turn number 3. I thought he was going to rub the fence and send them both into hyperspace, but no such occasion here. And the 2 cars are alongside each other there in Mackenzie and Rosella. They're no strangers to each other either. They do not like each other.
No, they're not the biggest fans of each other right now, and there was a point there where they were going too wide through turn 3, and I thought Dane was going to go for the move there, and then he didn't quite get the run. I think he was caught up on the inside, couldn't get quite the power down the way he wanted to, so he hasn't quite been able to run there. But as I said, these guys in this train are all doing very similar pace, so if the opportunity is there for Dane, he's going to take it. But as we've said, sprint racing, you don't want to do it on lap 1.
No, you certainly do not want to do it on lap 1. For Noah Tara, though, it's going to be about managing those tyres, right? Out now in front, he is the pioneer. He's towing all the others along. So he's got to find a way to get out of their range pretty quickly, as Devonish is now playing some defence here. This might help Tara a little bit here, as they're all deep and very wide, taking the wide line. Seems to be the preferred line tonight through the hairpin, as a few drivers down the field are also doing the same. Anthony Green boxing on there with his teammate and with Daniel Cox. So 3 Commodores in a line here as well on the fringes of the top 10.
Yeah, Dane Liccardo got a 4 out of that hairpin, and he's gone from challenging Luke Rosella. He's now very much in the clutches of Brennan Ross. But what that has actually done, their little battle has now brought Jonas Sigmaris back into this as well. And he's had a relatively quiet race one. Obviously coming home in the top 10, but not used to where we're seeing him up towards the pointier end of the scale. So he's definitely trying to buy into this now with Lockie Lock and Foley on the back of that train as well.
Yeah, well, Igmanis has jumped Lock and start here as well, so he's gone up one and Lock's gone back one. They started 7th and 6th respectively on the road, and they have swapped around the other way here. Now, Mackenzie's got to be careful here, dancing around in the braking zone here. You know, you've got to pick your line and you've got to stick to it and make sure that you're not cutting anyone else's nose off despite the face there. Probably be Brendan Ross, just keep it watching brief here for a moment and just work out where he's stronger versus where Mackenzie is weaker. And at the same time, this is what we saw at the in race number 1 here. Oh, Tara, has he made a mistake? He was just in the front of shot there. He has. He's made a mistake at the final corner, second to last corner, gone off the circuit. He's going to be gazumped by his teammate here, I think, and goes from leading the opening couple of laps of this race, now down into 6th place. Did he make a braking error?
I've gone back to the hairpin, and he was past the hairpin with Will Devonish up the inside, but I'm going to guess then maybe trying to get a bit too much back at the hairpin and made a mistake. Second last corner made a mistake.
Oh, so there's a little bit of argy-bargy going on there. I think on the run through turn number 5, maybe a little bit of room not potentially given. Something to look at after the race is over there, but if you're right, he was passed well and truly before that point. And we'll have to go and see what happens after that's over. But that's very, very interesting to note. He's now gone down to 6th, so has held off his advances of his teammate for the moment, but has fallen in behind Igmanis in the 51.
Yeah, so he's sort of chipping his way back up through the field, Igmanis. That said, Taro, we know he's got pace, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him trying to make a move past Igmanis at some point. But it's definitely not the easiest track to pass at. There's a couple of defined passing points, but you're really going to have the pace of the guys you're racing against, and they're all currently in the train behind Mackenzie, so they're all going to be doing very similar lap times.
They certainly will be, and yeah, you're right, it's a bit of a train here. It's a bit of a patience train, I think, is what we've sort of got to look at here. The top 2 clearing away at the moment. NZ Snipes has had a bit of a mistake somewhere as well. He's just fallen down the order to 22nd. His last lap time is on normal pace, so it probably was a lap prior to that. There's a yellow flag down here at the hairpin as well. Somebody off the circuit. Yep, that's one of the PBF cars, and that looks like it might be Phil Boak again.
Yeah,
and it is Phil Boak again.
Yeah, he's not had the. I was just went back and had a look. He's having a bit of battle with Jesse Bennett, perhaps outbroke himself and made contact with the wall of the hairpin. But yeah, tough little scrap so far for Boak. He is no stranger to the scrap. He has been here for a few years, but
he did really well there. Oh, and he hit the fence too. He did really well there after putting 2 tyres on the grass to avoid causing an absolute catastrophic accident.
And I say that actually potentially, maybe not. I'm seeing Bennett drop back in the pack he was racing against. Perhaps it was contact there for a reason, or perhaps he's considering a re-rest, I'm not sure. But yeah, that was a little bit messy. You kind of get it like that. As I mentioned, it's a hard track to pass that. So either you pick your moment, or you kind of just throw something out there and hope it sticks.
Yeah, I think so. It looks like Rosella's made his way past Devonish as well, because across the control line last time out there was absolutely nothing in it. So I think Devonish has probably had a poor exit through the last couple of corners, and he's given up the race lead there. But they are currently well clear at the moment of everybody. The battles that we're seeing are all the way down the field at the moment. So Longden actually, surprise, going through there on Cam Rutledge and Co. and up to 16th, which is where he started. I'll tell you what, Ronnie, there are some drivers that have come through the Development Series ranks so well in the last couple of weeks that some of them might actually be gearing up, I think, for maybe some of the old double duty drives that we used to see back in the day when NZ Snipes and Shees were doing Development Series and Supercars in consecutive weeks. And I wouldn't say that the likes of Lockton and Bennett are ready for it quite just yet, but Luke Speck, definitely. Brapp, definitely. Yep. But I think Brapp as a Supercar, as the Super 2 champion-elect, as it sits right now, he might be readying himself for a potential main game seat next year.
I think not only down to that, I think that a lot of the races Brapp has been in, I mean, here last week was an exception where I think it was Murrell who was pulling on Brapp, but generally Brapp's been pretty comfortably pulling on the field. It's only been people like Anthony Green that have been able to challenge him, and Greeny he's probably at risk of running supercars in some capacity next year anyway as well, because he's just as quick. And we say that with Greeny. He's currently...
Oh, have a look at this. Lochner, is he going to get a 2-for-1 special here on both the Beyond Mustangs down the inside at turn 4? I think he is. He's done it.
Oh.
Down the inside, he took advantage of Warwick and Snipes, and Cheese squabbling over what was 14th and 15th place, and he got them both. What a move!
That's a very bold move to do that. Sort of relying on it, especially when you got teammates that are battling that hard. You think, oh, maybe they won't actually, you know, they'll be so.
Oh,
generally,
exit
a bit of
stage
contact
left
there as well.
Exit stage left for Warwick as well, so that takes him out of that little group. So he'll come back onto the track here. Be very, very careful, and he does a good job there. But hats off to Darren Loughlin. That was a great pass, great opportunistic advantage. Like the Mustangs were slow through the next part of the course that we're attacking right now. There's Burko's off the track there as well. So they were slow through here because they were running side by side, and he had a full head of steam and said, I'm not going to sit here and just, you know, wait for it. I'm going to go for it.
And yeah, this is the thing we're seeing out of some of the guys from Dev Series who are coming here that don't really have anything on the ledge, they don't have anything that's going to hold them back, any reason to be more restrained. Darren, at least up until Sandown, had a motivation in Dev Series that he was, you know, in the fight for a Super 3 title. He didn't want to throw it all away. And even now, he's in the position, him and Jesse, it's going to take a bit of work, but they could potentially be there for a team's title at the end of the season. So they've got, you know, reasons to be, not saying more mature, but reasons to play the long game. He doesn't tonight. He's just here for tonight. By all means, he's going to be probably back again for an enduro drive in a couple of weeks' time. But Supercars for him is just an in and out. It's just an appearance on the night. So, yeah, he's got no reason to hold back. So that was a pretty bold move. I'm not saying we wouldn't see that from him in Dev Series, but yeah, to pull that on a main game full-timer and someone who hasn't as much experience as a main game full-timer, that's very bold of him. That
is extremely bold move, and I'll tell you what, it will have made a few people sit up and take notice with the ability to make the pass like that. I just noticed as well a lap ago, it looks like Igmanis made a little bit of a mistake in the braking zone heading up to turn number 6, and he actually surrendered not only a position to his stablemate Noah Tara, but he also surrendered a position to Brendan Ross. So this is not going the way that he wanted to tonight, and there he is, just a couple of car lengths further ahead of Lockie Lock right now. There is the number 51 at the moment, but he's not helping the team points battle right now. I mean, Will Devonish is doing most of the heavy lifting at the moment, trying to take the race victories away from Rosella, but they need to work together. They really need to get Igmanis up in front of Brendan Ross at some stage tonight to try and arrest some of that momentum.
Yeah, the interesting part actually, just having looked at the timing, so I wanted to check where I was looking at. Part of it is just by virtue of the racing that's happening is Tara and
safety car.
Safety car
called. Okay, so that changes the game here.
Hairpin. Cars at the hairpin.
Up at the hairpin.
Phil Polk's involved.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of contact going on up there at the hairpin. Oh, and it's Burko as well. Here we go. So there's a couple of cars that are caught up in this.
Oh, so
about to cut to the replay here. There's just a little bit of an invasion, I guess I call it, in the broadcast booth here, because there was two of them girls that are going to bed in my household that wanted to say goodnight to their father, so they've now been gone. So I'm actually watching Steve Burko here, so you can see there was something happening ahead there with Burko, so he actually outbraked himself and went deep all on his own. The real interesting bit here is what happened to Phil Polk. We'll wind this one back and have another look here. Well, I can see what's happened here. This is an outbraking move, and just very, very late here and gone straight on.
Yeah, so the issue there, I think Boak was fine with the runoff where he was. Burko was probably fine that he wasn't going to almost trigger a safety car, but he reversed trying to get back to the barriers as cars were entering the hairpin, and in the end, Steve Warwick.
And there's a few here, yeah, so there's Warwick on the other side there, so that's what's tripped it up.
Yeah.
And that actually will facilitate a couple of pit stops here as well that we're seeing on our monitors as well. So Phil Boak in the lane, unsurprisingly, with a bit of damage to repair. And there was another car that was in there as well. That's actually NZ Snipes, so he was well down the order anyway, so good opportunity for him.
I think, I'm trying to remember actually if Snipes was involved in that or not. Oh no, he is around. I think he was one of the cars that both were trying to get past actually in the initial part of that. So perhaps, yeah, try and take an opportunity for something. I mean, like I talked earlier, the way the guys were driving, they looked like they were very much at the end of their softs. And this is the time, if you're going to pit for tyres, this is the time you want to do it, especially for a safety car. So Snipes, by all means, with where he's running in the field, his biggest issue right now is he's currently a lap down. He's relying on a few other cars to pit to really facilitate an opportunity to pass some cars on track. But
you just hit the nail on the head right there. Those guys are all a lap down. Rutledge, Bennett, Luke Speck, NZ Snipes, Phil Polk, they have all gone one lap down in all of this. So they've tried to take the bait. So the likes of Rutledge and Bennett that probably weren't involved in that battle, I think, and probably Luke Speck as well. They're down the field. They've gone, let's try and get a couple of free positions here with some tyres, and it's bit them back. They were not close enough to the back of the train to really mitigate the risk of being lapped. They came in too early. They paid the price.
Yeah, it could be worse. What's the worst positioned car of the lap cars is worst and also first lap car in this is Cam Rutledge. He's up behind Scotty Murrell on track. Scotty Murrell's currently in 10th, so he's going to be when Scotty Murrell and Ethan Higginson on the restart. But Cam knows what he's doing. He's going to file out. That said, the car, his next racing position is Jesse Bennett, who was two spots behind him on the road and one spot behind him in position. He's between Higginson and Anthony Green. So Cam's got the balance of letting the cars through, which he has to do, but also not letting Jesse through. But the other argument with this is when we saw this with the Dev Series, the guys that have pitted, maybe not race leading pace from any of the guys that pitted, but they might be quicker than the cars around them.
Yeah, potentially. We did see this a little bit in the development series as well, that a few drivers were caught up in the safety car incident. There was a bit of a dispute going on about someone that may or may not have been told that they had the lucky dog. It certainly appeared for a lot of other drivers. We don't have that situation here. Those drivers that came into the pits don't look like they have been, or any of them don't look like they've been given the lucky dog. If it was going to go to anybody, it would have gone to Rutledge by now. He's still buried in the middle of the pack and not making any moves to try and get that lap back. So I dare say that the stewards have decided, nope, there is no reason why that needs to be issued at this point in time. Rutledge will stay precisely where he is. Well, what does this do, Rody? What does this do to proceedings? So it brings Mackenzie back into the equation, brings Noah Turra back into the equation, because there was a good air margin there between second and third place on the road. And again, Turra had caught back up to the back of that sort of second group of cars behind the two race leaders. But has he got anything left here? If the safety car comes in now, we're sort of going to be set for about, what are we looking at? Lap 16s when we go back to racing. So we're going to get about another 6 laps, but that just depends if we start checking up the field right about now. And given that Devonish is pretty close to the safety car, I say we're probably going round again, so knock another lap off that number.
Yeah, I'd say so. The interesting thing for me, even though the safety car does throw back a little bit of tyre life back in the direction of people like Noah Turra, my question mark is with the driving he's been doing, he's not only been at pace, he's been passing people, and he's been doing fairly similar pace with the leaders with no slipstream or no sort of air packing that Will's had by having Luke running up his back bump for the last 4 or 5 laps down the straights that's boosting him along. So he might, relatively speaking, have the most used tyres of the bunch. We know he's got the pace, but if it comes down to, and we saw the way the guys were wobbling around, if tyre life is down to like half a lap's worth of running, Turra might be in trouble. That said, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. I mean, he did only race 2, and I do say, hey, save some for race 3. If he feels like he's in a shot to try and at least get a podium here, if not do a little higher, even if he's at risk of popping a tyre, he might just do that. I mean, heck, I did that in the second race of Dev Series. I had a goal. I'm just like, I'm not finishing this race until I'm ahead of set person, and it cost me a pop tyre in the end, but I got the position that I wanted to be at. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that does happen, but we will be resuming at the end of this lap by the look of things.
Yeah, it looks like Will Devonish has started to check the train at the apex of turn 5, which is what we've been asking drivers to do ever since we saw a few incidents with safety cars not being cleared, or the yellow flag not being cleared in time. That's precisely what we've had them do. There's a little bit of checking up going on in the field, a few drivers not expecting things to go on. And one of those is Higginson, but he's of course in a bit of a mid-pack situation here, so he's going to have that penalty withdrawn. He's correctly in queue, and we've got a 5-lap sprint to the end of race number 2 this evening, and here we go. And Rosella over the hump. Oh, and a little bit of contact there, and Devonish loses over the hump. and he's gone for a mile, and there was a little bit of contact between these two at the restart here as well. So Devonish out of business. Rosella to the lead of the race. Mackenzie in his tow, and it got a little bit feisty there at the restart. Rosella, he cranked it sideways, and he's locked it on the grass there, but somehow keeps the 88 pointing the right direction.
Yeah, I'm surprised that played out the way it did in the end. Just looking, got another couple of penalties I've got to clear, so I'm just checking, just sorting that out at the moment. But no, that was interesting the way that played out. Is tight little run there between Luke and Dane coming into the first corner. In the end, it was Will that actually got snookered as a result. So
did he get snookered? It looked. From my angle, it didn't look like he did. It looked
from
like
my angle, it looked like there was slight contact. It potentially, as Will came over the crest, which would very much unsettle the car. I'm not sure 100%. From my angle, it looked like it was contact, but I think if we both can't agree, we can't make a claim one way or the other just yet. But either way, that was definitely very tight.
It was. I'll have to go back and see that one, because to me it looked like Will potentially may have lost it over the hump on his own. I'm not too sure, but I wasn't paying an overly amount of attention to what was going on behind. I was looking to see how well Will actually could execute the restart. I wasn't expecting there to be a bit of snooker contact. I did see a little bit of contact between Mackenzie and Rosella, but I didn't see any contact outside of that. So we'll wait to see how that one all plays out. This is now the opportunity here for Rosella to bag some more points. Egmanis now looking around the outside of Brendan Ross, who pulls the same trick that his stablemate did for Luke Rosella lap after lap in race number 1. Blocks the inside down at turn 6, all legal. This is now checking the train here. So Egmanis is being harassed by Locke. He's trying to harass Ross at exactly the same time. Tara's having a little bit of a look at the back of Mackenzie here as well. And I think if anything's going to happen, that they need to probably swap Mackenzie and Tara around quickly to see if Tara's got anything for Luke Rosella. Couple of yellow flags going on here as well.
Yeah,
so
I saw some contact down the hairpin while I just cleared up what I had to worry about, but yeah, there was a bit of contact from a couple of cars at the hairpin.
So Egmanis still trying to get past Brendan Ross. Same trick, he can't keep doing. Oh, a bit of contact there, maybe a little bit of contact from Foley in the rear there as well. The cars are getting very squirrely going through 6 and 7 as everybody checked up with Ross on the defensive narrow line. This is getting feisty. Heading down towards 4 again. And we pick up Tara trying to get down the inside of Mackenzie. Can he do it here at the hairpin this time? Yes, he can. So he needs to get this move done, and I think Dane needs to concede defeat here, and he does. And says, all right, you're down the inside fairly and squarely. You've got to lap it a little bit, probably a little bit too far for Noah Tara. Off you go, son.
Yeah, I was just something else in the field. I've just seen Scotty Murrell's retired from this race. Concern potentially for him with his shoulder. That was an issue for him in Dev Series. But he pulled off the track and retired from the race, so I'm not sure what's happened there.
And Egmanis through. Importantly, Egmanis now through on Brendan Ross. Looks like he got that move done off the hairpin. So he moves up into 4th place overall here. So in the absence of Devonish down the order now, where is he? He is down in 14th place. Lucky to make a top 10 from here. Egmanis now holding up the CRE flag, trying to arrest the points momentum here. So for Noah Tara, he's closing the margin down to Rosella, but Rosella with a braking mistake, a critical moment, the hairpin. Is that enough for Tara to get into the slipstream of the 88, heading up towards turn number 6? Well, we're about to find out. We are on the last lap here. I don't think Noah's going to pull anything silly here. He's going to sit there and wait for his front row opportunity in the next race, because Rosella blocks the inside line like he did. A little bit of wheel hop contact there. Over and under potentially. No, don't risk it. And take the front row start for the 3rd race and have your best shot at another win then. So Rosella with the win ahead of Noah Tara. Ooh, a little bit of awkward moment there between the two of them at the last bit there. And Mackenzie with a 3rd place, so that'll be, I guess, questionable as to what's happened after all of that. Egmanis got home 4th with Brendan Ross 5th. He's already pulling off the road. Brenton Foley 6th, so for him that was a good result, up 2 spots. Lyle Mitch also up 2, up to 7th place. Locke 8th, he lost the 2 there. Higginson 9th, so he'll be pretty happy with the top 10. Check that out, Roddy. That's an 8th position gain for Nathan Higginson, so that'll be something that he'll be pretty pleased with after all of that. And both the cars from the Beyond Racing Young Guns made the 10, so right behind him was Anthony Green. Will Devenish got back to 13th place, so he actually only gained one more spot from the last time we saw him on the totem pole. He managed to get past Steve Warwick at the end there and come home in 13th, so got an awful amount of work to do there from 13th in the next race. But what on earth happened at that restart? We'll have to go back and take a look at that after this one is over.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, in between that and catching up with some stuff that it was just maybe a couple of things that were handed out after the big batch clear was done that one of them had to clear up and got in there just in the end. So unfortunately, it's not like I think the last time I had to do this was a couple of rounds ago, but I had the time to do it 50-second laps. It's a bit of a rush, but yeah, it's I think the whole safety cars, pre-safety cars things. I think the safety car did its very best at points there. Very tight race for the win in the first race. A tight race for the win. A tight race for the win in race 2, but it was the race from after the race out of the safety car rather than the race to the line that decided the win. To a degree, but yeah, it's the last time these guys have got a sprint racing this season. It seems a lot of them have got some energy they're trying to work out.
I think so. And there's a few interesting comments are starting to be raised in the discussions at the moment as to what exactly did happen on the on that opening lap there. I think those that are raising those probably just need to let that that stuff just go to bed for the moment until after the race is actually over. There's still plenty of racing still to go. There is one more still to go. Race to finish up here. I still think we're having a couple of Discord issues here, Rhodey. There's a few things that are just behaving a little bit slowly, but hopefully we'll be able to get a few people in for interviews after the night is over. But the old Discord's still having a fair few issues there. And noticing from Pete Savage in the chat there as well that Steve Burko did DNF on the last lap. But importantly, though, if he did DNF on the last lap, he was on the last lap, he will still get points for that as well because he has completed the... actually, just trying to remember off the top of my head. No, he won't get points because he's done the minimum requirement but didn't see the checkered flag.
Yeah, exactly. The rule is you'd be running at the line. So that's
a new rule for this year.
Yeah, so that's going to sting. But that was an interesting end to that race. As things are played out, we've still got one more race left to go, though. And if the Discord does decide to behave in time, definitely a wide range of people that we could potentially bring in because a lot of guys, I mean, even just off of race 2, Higginson, making up 10 spots. Granted, that was probably just being the coolest head in the coolest cucumber in the bunch there, because obviously we saw happen at the front, but there was some stuff probably playing out the mid-pack as well. Also probably taking advantage for him of some of the cars that chose to pit for tyres and winning caught a lap down as well. But he's done pretty well. I've just seen as well, he's made it just in time for the last race. Zach Brown has appeared in the server as well.
Yeah, so Zach Brown looks like he's just jumping into the server here as well. So just seeing he has appeared for this one. And you said you're concerned for Scott Murrell at the moment. He's just gone to see if he's got a bit of a shoulder complaint there as well. Still is in the server at the moment, but we are just waiting to see if he does decide to pull the pin on the third race for the night or not. Something I guess he's been dealing with for a little while, Rhodey, by the sound of it.
I think it's popped up for him. It's popped up for him for I think at least. Well, he didn't race Hidden Valley, but that's sort of Hidden Valley onwards around there. He's sort of been nursing it and working it where he can. Realistically, I think he's at the point where he might end up sitting out the rest of the Dev Series season potentially, depending on both what the doctor advises he should do and whether he chooses to listen to the doctor. He hasn't mentioned that already. He was pretty good last week. He did have an issue though in the Dev Series practice night we had actually. There's just a bit of contact in an incident that ended up throwing his shoulder out. He wasn't a happy chappy after that. Put it that way. But he managed to get it just about sorted enough. He went, I think, to the doctor on the Friday of Dev Series, and everything was good enough to go. He did have a doctor's visit, I think, Tuesday. Actually, no, I don't think he had the Dev Series. No, actually, I don't think he had the doctor's visit for Dev Series. He had the doctor's visit, I think, Tuesday, which was when he was deciding whether he could actually race or not. I did tell him, look, put yourself in, and then if you can't race later in the week, that's fine. You can pull out. I'd say the fact he's raced the first 2 races means he's probably pretty good. I do have a DM from him, but Discord being Discord is not letting me see it on my PC, so I'm going to quickly check it on my phone. Yeah, no, okay, it's exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, the response was that, and I won't use the middle word because it's not a stream-friendly word, but that hurt. So I imagine something's happened somewhere, and he's running decent force feedback, so it's probably grabbed the wheel and wrenched it in a way that his shoulder really wasn't prepared for, which would be why he's pulled off and retired in race 2. Whether he's back for race 3, I'm not sure. It might be something where he just needs to have a break, go and stretch the arm out. It might be something where he might need to go and grab a Panadol. That said, I don't see him. Actually, no, I see him in the chat. He's down in CRE. He might be having a chat to some of the fellows down there potentially between the races. But that said, that could be an issue because he won't be able to get back into PBF if Discord is continuing to throw issues. So, yeah, that's that. But yeah, he does look like he might be going back for race 3.
Yeah, well, we'll see how we go. At the moment, he is in the server, and the only one we're just waiting to jump back in is Lion Mitch, just to see how he goes with things at the moment. Still a good turnout for the night, 22, 23 cars, big successful night for the Supercar Series. There's only 3 rounds left in the season. Bathurst in a couple of weeks, followed by Pukekohe for the third of the Enduros, 250k Enduros, and then the last round at Adelaide. Important to note, Rady, not only is this the last round of last run of sprint racing for the season, but it's also the last time that we will see the soft tyre in play. Everything else from here is the hard tyre.
Yeah, I think. I don't remember. I think we have actually committed Bathurst to a hard tyre this year. Yeah, I know it's IRL that they're looking at running soft tyres at Bathurst, and perhaps then obviously, especially when we move into Gen 3, that's a conversation that we had. But yeah, hard tyre for the rest of the season. It'll be good at least because drivers will get a chance to sort of commit themselves to driving on a hard tyre. I know that a lot of drivers would only touch the hard tyre if they have to, even to the point where I know we've had it. I've pretty much said the story a few times, but we've had it in PBF where I think it was Adelaide, where I'm at 2021. Where the hard tyre was the faster tyre for the race, but it was a really boring tyre to race on. So we all decided after race 1, look, we'd probably be faster on the hards, but we'd rather drive the soft. So yeah, it's a lot of, I think, an opinion a lot of the drivers have around all that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one, how that all ends up playing out. But words. Yeah, it's for a lot of the drivers that haven't committed a lot of time to the hard tyres, they might struggle a little bit in the first couple of rounds. They said the first couple of rounds are the enduros, and you're not chasing outright pace glory in enduro anyway. I mean, like there are some drivers out there that will be because they can do their outright pace while still being pretty comfortable. They're not running. They're running at 10 tenths of the pace, but they're doing it at 8 tenths of themselves. But a lot of the guys, the mid-pack guys, especially the guys coming up from Super 2 and Super 3, they're just out there to try and get some points. So they'll get a much more gentle introduction to the hard tyre for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and look, Bathurst has always been a hard tyre round for a number of years now. Whenever it's been run in ASR, it typically has been the hard tyre because it does offer the most resemblance towards the real-life pace of what these cars were doing back in the day. So it's, if you get the soft tyre in there, people will be doing sub 2-minute laps, and that's not really realistic. I mean, most of the lap times we see are pretty close to what you would actually be doing in real life. I mean, they are out by a couple of seconds on some tracks that are not exactly laser scanned accurate in terms of their actual dimensions. But for the most part, you can do a lap around Bathurst on a hard tyre in these Gen 2 cars, and you will be somewhere in the vicinity of what they would have been turning higher around. So it's no stranger. Everybody's had the run of it for a couple of years now. Even the new guys, as Daniel Cox goes down the escape road there at the at turn 4. Just about everybody has run Bathurst in some degree or another in a tyre that is, conducive to the kind of lap times that Bathurst produces. So it shouldn't be any surprise when we get to the mountain in a couple of weeks. I'm expecting, everybody will have been doing laps because, of course, we've got real life Bathurst next weekend, and that'll probably put a few people in the mood for some sim racing a week later. Clock is at 0. That means practice in the warm-up session here is indeed over, and we are now on our way towards the third and final race for the night. And, well, Rody, 2 different winners tonight. I posed this question to Dan McCarthy at Phillip Island on Sunday just gone when we were talking about Formula V, and we'd had 2 winners, and I said, can we make it 3? And he was hoping we probably could, but it turned out the answer was no, because we ended up with Reef McCarthy getting another win. So he took 2 away for the weekend. What says you about the opportunity for another different winner tonight out of the 3 races?
I think there's definitely a possibility for it. We've seen the pace from Noah Tara tonight, so he's definitely in the window to have a win. Just down to him, it'll just be the sorry, I'm getting a mouse to work. Yeah, for him, it'll just be sort of keeping it there. He probably is best positioned from where he's sitting, just to sit there and let Will and Luke battle it out for the race, and then buy in at the end when his tyre life is a little better than theirs. That's probably, from where I sit, that's probably how he would want to approach it, because he can race with them on pace. The other one that's potentially going to be there or thereabouts, also possibly just because there's less cars to pass. It's been this end of the. He started, I think, on the grid in this position every race so far, but without Will in the picture, I suppose there's less friendly fire at risk. Dan McKenzie's up there as well, and he's had the inverse ego problem of what he had when he was in Dev Series, where he was confident that he could win everything. He's now confident he can't win everything, or can't win anything. But like he's doing very well tonight on pace. He probably needs to knock a tenth or 2 off in his commitment, as it were, to make sure he survives with that energy for the entire race. But he's a possibility as well.
Here we go, 3rd race of the night. So front row for this one, Luke Rosella with race 2 win, and Noah Tara, who was looking the goods until that little mistake in the early going dropped him down the order, and he recovered to 2nd there. Mackenzie, who you've just mentioned there, Rody, will start out of 3rd place. This time he's got the sister of the CRE teammate cars alongside him in Curtis Igmanis. Behind him, Brendan Ross. So that's been a close fight between those 2 so far tonight, and very, very crucial in terms of the point standings. Brenton Foley going to be opposite him on row 3 of the grid, so former teammates alongside each other to start the 3rd and final race tonight. Lion Mitch has had a superb return. I reckon he's probably driver of the night so far, Rody, with 7th place starting grid for this one. He's been inside the 10 most of the night. He's done very, very well, and Lockie Lock is going to be starting alongside him. Nathan Higginson in 9th and Anthony Green in 10th, so the Beyond Racing Young Guns cars will be on the same row of the grid. That's row 5, with Daniel Cox and Darren Lockton, who pulled that superb pass on the pair of the Beyond Racing Mustangs earlier in race 2. He's out of 12th, with Will Devonish got a lot of work to do here, starting 13th, with Steve Warwick alongside him in 14th. Cheese and Steve Burko will start 15th and 16th, and then the rest of the field rounded out by Cam Rutledge and Jesse Bennett, then back to Phil Boak and NZ Snipes, with Scott Murrell 21st and Luke Speck 22nd, and Zach Brown 23rd, and the last of the runners having not qualified and not spent any time on track up until this point tonight.
Yeah, he's going to have a big challenge from down the back there, but a safety car falls into it, he might be able to swing his way back up towards the front of the field.
We'll soon find out, just waiting on the last cars to get into position here, and here we go. Race number 3 for the night, race 25 of the championship, the last one before Bathurst. Let's see how it goes. And off the front row of the grid, good initial reaction for Rosella, equally good reaction for Noah Tara, so not the tardy starts that the CRE cars are used for out of the whole shot of the first positions on the grid there. And there's already contact at the back there, there's locked, there's safety a bunch of cars, and there's a...
I don't know how there isn't.
Well, there's a lot of cars going on there, and that's got to be a safety car. There's cars everywhere. Yes, there is. There is one now. So that's the end of that argument. There's a lot of damaged race cars out there, and I don't know what on earth happened there, but that curtails the field and curtails the running early. Well, this is what we call replay time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go back and have a look at what happened here. And it looks like it's actually potentially a start line incident, or it's kicked off from the start. So have a look here. So Locke alongside Mitch on the start of the race here. They were in 7th and 8th respectively, and waiting for the sequence to get underway here. Here we go. So good jump, great jump by Anthony Green. So he got 2 positions there at the going there. And then, looks like Higginson maybe gave a shove to Locke accidentally, and then bam, straight into Green. Lachlan caught up, Warwick caught up, a whole bunch of cars caught up in all of that. And then there was a car on its roof, on its side, which was Luke Speck. So there was a lot going on there at that restart there. And about half the field managed to survive it. So I don't know how on earth some of these drivers have managed to get away with that, but there's a lot of cars heading for pit lane at the moment, and there's going to be a lot of damage going on here too. Now, these guys have got to be careful, Rody, because the race leader behind the safety cars coming up to the final sequence of corners in the next sort of 10 seconds. So they don't want to waste too much time with the damage repair in the pit lane. They need to sort of get out, get back onto the train, and then come back in if there's time, because otherwise you're going to go a lap down. So I can see Locke's leaving the lane at the moment here, so he's going to be okay. Steve Warwick still stationary. There's a bunch of drivers. Yeah, there's a bunch of drivers going to go a lap down here. So Speck, Lachlan, Green, Warwick, they're all still stationary. Burko's managed to beat out the Luke Rosella here, and so too Lachlan Locke. So there's 4 drivers going to go a lap down here. Steve Warwick, Anthony Green, Luke Speck and Darren Lockton are all now 1 lap down after just 2 laps of this race. Not through any fault of their own. They're taking the hit now with the damage repair, but there's no lucky dogs this early in the race.
Well, yeah, the lucky dog I'm pretty sure is determined as of the corner of the safety car, and nobody's a lap down at that point because we hadn't even completed a flying lap yet. So yeah, it's a lot of that, I think, was just the awkwardness of being right there when the incident itself happened. I mean, for Lockie, I think he did all he could, from what I can tell. He basically had the car locked up the entire run across the grass, just trying to get the thing to stop because he knew exactly what was coming. In the end, just couldn't stop it just in time. Nothing much on Greeny. He couldn't really expect to have a car pop out in front of him like that and stop and prop right in front of him. A lot of guys right behind him, probably similar thing. You know, you could probably in hindsight, you could have lifted a little bit, but you just don't know what's happening until it's happening right in front of you. I think a lot of the guys towards the back did a right job of getting out of it. Like Murrell was the one of the ones who didn't end up hitting from that. He made contact with, I think it was one of the Kiwi cars, but especially with where his arm's at, he wasn't about to go blazing into that incident. So he got out of that pretty early. And I imagine people like Zach Brown's made up the most gains. I said second car would help him out. He's already up to 16th by virtue of all that. He was at the back of the train, so he had an opportunity to just wait and let it all happen.
The unlucky one there and all of that was Anthony Green, in my thinking there, Brody, because he made such a good start off the 5th row of the grid. He picked up 2 spots and he'd gotten through turn 1 cleanly, and then he was cleaned up unsighted by Lockie. Lockie was going across the grass and just couldn't stop the car. And I'm still a bit perplexed as to how Lime Mitch and Lockie Lock came together there. Of course, they are obscuring another car that's behind, so I don't know if there's any other contact that potentially happened to that, or whether there's been a braking mistake.
I think from the angle that I was looking at it from, I think it was there was a little bit of a race off the line going on between Lime Mitch and Higo, and I think Locke actually had a very good start, but ended up on the grass trying to pass. I think it was Foley. And you're not going to get a good run on the grass, so he had to tail back in very quickly. I imagine probably got a wheel spin on the grass, was then slow getting sort of through the second phase of the start, and that's what put him in the back in the vicinity of Higginson and Mitch when that contact first set off. So I imagine there was multi-car triggered at that one as well.
Yeah, I think so. Well, only a couple of laps under safety car here, just the 3, going back to racing here in a few moments' time. Luke Rosella still heading the field. Top 3 as they started at the beginning of this one, as we recommence on lap 5 of 21 and Rosella leads them away. All clean restart so far. Everybody looks like they're getting through turn 1 pretty cleanly. All single file restart as is customary. Oop, there's one of the Beyond cars that's just gone off a little bit there. Looks like that might have been Steve Warwick, who was actually a lap down anyway. And no harm, no foul. He lets them all through, and I think he might be retiring from this one, I think.
Yep, looks like it. So perhaps just with where things were sitting there, lap down, like there's very much a window that some of these guys are lap down could get their laps back as the race goes on, but definitely an uphill slog for some of those guys from here on.
Yeah, no, I think so. Going to be a big one. This is going to be an uphill slog for this man here, Anthony Green. He's actually the first car 1 lap down. So him, Luke Speck, Darren Lockton, they're in a battle all on their own. So realistically, Green needs another safety car here to even get potentially a lucky dog to get back on the lead lap here. And that's a shame because he had done such a good job at the start there and just purely in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely. Just looking at train of cars starting to form now. Mackenzie again, the head of this train with Ross actually really trying to get a move on there. Nearly put himself on the grass twice trying to set up a pass there.
And he's gone deep too.
He's opened the door for Igmanis. Higginson's in there, Foley's in there. And I was looking because Will Devonish was also on the way past Lime Mitch, and he's trying to move his way through the field as well. Yeah,
this is going to get real ugly real fast because Mackenzie protected the inside line and Ross danced around, put some tyres on the grass there and then went the other way and outbraked himself after that. Now he's in a real gunfight here with Higginson and Foley, and then Devonish is boxed in behind here as well, so he's making zero progress at the moment. He's only made he's made 5 spots overall since the drop of the green flag, but he's not making much at the moment because this rolling roadblock in front of him is he got the track virtually blocked because this is a narrow place here. Oh, and Higginson moving it over. Be careful there because that's a little bit naughty. You don't want to be mirror driving there.
I don't think he was trying to defend. Well, I think he was trying to set himself up for Foley. Just didn't realise Will was quite there.
Yeah, that's about having an eyes in the front and the back of your head there, and very, very careful there. Now he picks the inside line here. Foley goes the outside line for 6, and no, he's got. I was about to say, yeah, you echoed my sentiments exactly there. Got to go right around the outside. Oh, Foley. Was there a snooker effect in there? Or?
That was a snooker, yeah. That was Will getting into Higginson mid-corner and then slightly rubbed off Foley. Foley still managed to keep it on track, so no big dramas there. Lime Mitch and Daniel Cox having a monumental scrap over 9th or 10th in the background as well.
They are, and that's bringing Phil Boak into the equation. Oh, there was one of the cheese. I was about to say one of the Beyond Team Tanifer cars was sideways, having ridden up over the curb there, and that is a nasty curb. If you get that wrong, you zero curb at turn 3, and Snipes, I'm not sure if he was squeezed out there or if he did that of his own accord. But yeah, he went for a wild slide going through turn 3, slapped the fence on the right-hand side on the exit.
Yeah, somehow in all of that, Will Devonish just finally managed to get through. He put the move on Foley down at the hairpin, and he's now trying to check out. His next battle is going to be part 2 with Higginson, who's trying to do similar things. He's trying to pull away from Foley as well. And in all this, Ross has just managed to, he's pulled a couple, nearly a second on the train now as well.
Yeah, so he's trying to latch now onto the back of Igmanis and Mackenzie, so that would be a podium spot for the offering for Brendan Ross. He's just disappearing through the shop there as he can. Now what's Higginson do this time? He's going to drive it down the inside here and leave it there, and looking like switch back here, I think Devonish is looking for. Yes, he is. Needs to get to the left-hand side of Higginson, and he does so. So that now means Higginson can't move over in the zone up here at turn 5. And this is the old Shane Van Gisbergen trick, isn't it, Ruddy? You've got to sort of get to that rear quarter panel and try and drag the car. But Higginson with some good straight line speed there, managing to be able to hold off the Mustang. And a little bit of an awkward moment there through the turn. Devonish around the outside as Higginson's car had a bit of a wiggle through 6, and I think that move is now done.
Yeah, that was. Higginson was set up. Will was set up well, but Higginson just slightly better run off the hairpin, moved that passing opportunity a corner later in the end result. Like Devonish was more than likely always going to get through, and Higginson was just a question of when. And you know how much time he can save here, so he can have some time at the back end of this race to catch up with at least a podium position from here. But still a big scrap going on here. Foley and Lime Mitch now in the battle over the rest of the 10.
Yeah, they are the other battle of the rest of the 10. Just keep an eye here on Brendan Ross. He's actually caught up to Igmanis and Mackenzie now, and they've swapped. There's been a positional change here between these two in the last couple of laps. So Igmanis into a third place position on the podium for this race. Not sure how the round points are tracking overall at the moment. I'd say Luke Roselle is definitely our round leader at the moment, with Will Devenish's unfortunate demise in race 2. And then the rest of it's sort of going to be a bit open tear, I think. I think Noah Turra is probably sitting at the moment in second overall, probably ahead of Mackenzie, then followed by probably Ross and Igmanis, I'd say, is probably the top 5 for the round at the moment.
I could look at the points right now and tell you, but I'm too focused on what's happening on track, so
yeah, me too.
We'll save that until after the race.
We certainly will. So at the moment, Igmanis holding his own right now, as actually Devonish has started to close that margin down to Brendan Ross. I'm going to keep an eye on the lap times here for the Mustang pilot as well, as Higginson's now being rounded up by Brent Foley. And is he going to try and throw it up the inside here in defence? No, he's going to let it go. Oh, yellow safety car. Is it? Or is it a yellow flag?
No, there's a car deep. It's one of the Pixel cars.
Is it? It's one of the Pixel cars.
Yeah, Ross.
Brendan Ross. Yeah, he's gone. So he's out of this equation somewhere. I'm trying to see if I can find out what's happened to him. He has. Yeah, he absolutely right. He's fallen down to 18th. So I saw it flash and I thought that was on the yellow flag, and I thought there was a safety car there, but no, he's just been off the track. So what on earth happened here? Oh, this is coming into the braking zone at 6, so there's been a monumental moment here. So now what happens to Brendan Ross? So, he tries for the outside, he's on the grass and he can't stop the car. So, that's a bit of a weird one. I want to wind that back and just have a little bit of another look at this one, Roddy. I just want to have a look at it from the Brendan Ross point of view, just to see how this one plays out. He's in the tail here of Mackenzie, who is staying right where he is, and for me, that one's on Ross. That's a driving error for me.
Yeah, just might have got a bit flustered. It just with how hard they've been racing each other as well. Just maybe a little bit flustered out on the grass. And I think at one point there was all 4 wheels on the grass, and you definitely aren't stopping the car in the same manner as you would on the tarmac there. He did a good job in the end, because he very much, especially with the way that the car likes to pitch when you're trying to brake on grass, he could have very much got into Mackenzie and Igmanis there, but he managed to keep out of them. In the end, he's knocked himself back to 17th on the road. He is still in the train, but he's got a lot of work to do now.
No, he does, but importantly on the team's championship front, that actually swings the balance back the other way now as well. You've got Igmanis and Devonish now in the top 5. So Devonish is actually past Mackenzie and Igmanis after all of this as well. So that's an interesting point that actually just came in the last sort of 60 seconds or so. So teams points wise, yes, this now swings the balance back the other way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and that's, I suppose, a lot of the thinking for these guys at this end of the season, especially between the 2 CRE Mustangs and the 2 Pixel Commodores. Yeah, that's very much a lot of the thinking that goes into the racing is the team's points. But yeah, it's importantly, as I set them back up the other way, I think for the round it's going to be pretty even across the board. There won't be any sort of major changes one way or the other. With Will's incident in race 2 and with Rossi's in race 3, they're probably fairly even where things are sitting. So there might be a small increase or decrease in the points lead, but it won't be, I don't think we'll see a positional change right now.
No, I don't think we're going to see a positional change either. If anything, it's going to be, just a very, very small gain or a very, very small loss one way or the other. Where Ross is at the moment and where Devonish finished in the previous race, so effectively those are almost going to offset each other in terms of the bad points for each other. So it's going to come down to race where the others finished in races 1 and 2, where they finish in this race as to how all those points will shake out. So NZ Snipes just lose a couple of spots there. Murrell just went past Nathan Higginson at the hairpin on the last lap, and now he's doing his best, Boak did rather, and he's now just trying to hold his own here and goes through to 7th place. So Phil Boak, 12 positions gained here, starting down the back of the field after 2 really odd races. Race 1 where he was missing a bonnet at one stage, race 2 where he was in no man's land, and now taking full advantage of that early safety car, getting through the carnage fine, and now racing well and truly inside the top 10.
Yeah, I think what we found coming out of Sandown was a confidence rejuvenator for some of the drivers in the field. Those that have been here full time over the last couple of years and maybe just really needed the reminder that, hey, you can be quick. I mean, Ricardo is an example. I mean, saw how well he did in his first stint. People like Brandon Doss was another one with how well he did not only in Super 2 the night before, but when they jumped into the Enduro car, and he was not slow. He was doing a good job keeping up with the likes of Ross, of Foley, of the people that on paper he shouldn't be keeping up with, but he was. Like on-track conduct where he needed a little work, he got a little cozy with people under brakes, but the pace was there, and that's what matters. Same thing for Boak. But he's never really been slow. He just sort of fell off as he sort of took the year off and then went back to Super 2 and came back to Supercars again. But he and Foley finished on the podium in Sandown. So, and that was partially down to not dying in the race, but also having the pace to be there. So, they had a really good run as well.
They certainly did. Boak just lost a spot there to Higginson as well. Mitch might throw one up the inside here at the hairpin if he gets half a shot. No, just and changes direction under brake there as well, and that locked the front brake as well. But somehow he's turned it into a pass there to the old switchback over and under trick down the inside of the hairpin at turn 4. So he's made that move stick, and he'll press on here. Now Devonish going through to third place. Mackenzie and Igmanis have swapped spots here as well. Now, I mean, intra-team rules and stuff here, I don't know where they play into the equation here, but there's only 4 laps to go. I think for maximum team points, you probably want to be swapping these 2 cars at this point.
If you feel so inclined, if you feel like you really need to worry about it, then yeah, that's something that you look at doing. Look, that said, I mean, Tomo's got his race to run in the championship. Dane's got his race to run. He's had a couple rounds off, but Dane's very much like, every race weekend is firing a bet at me that, hey, if I don't do this or if I don't do that, if I can't be here, can I go back to the Super 2? I think the one I got tonight was if I don't finish top 10 in the driver's at the end of the year, then I should be in Super 2 next year. Yeah, but then there's a bunch of other people who are going to use exactly the same argument. Exactly. But like the thing is, like I think he was 13th coming into the night. But like a lot of the guys he was going to pass, he's passed people just by virtue of being here tonight when they couldn't make it. I mean, the only person ahead of him he wasn't likely to pass on pace immediately was Rosella. But I mean, like he's got a top 10 he's aiming for. Probably aiming for more than a top 10 if we're honest. But I mean, he's missed a few rounds this year, so a top 10's a good, a reasonable goal to aim for if you can't make every race of the season. Yeah, he's probably looking to do that as well, and it might come down to whatever the points difference is going forward for him as well. So. Yeah, they're in a point position right now with the teams where the Mustangs need as much as they can get. At the same time, Dane's, it's going to take a direct order, I think, for Dane to change. There's a moment going on there at the hairpin. I was just looking to see how well Zach Brown was going. He was doing very well. He actually just gained another spot because Higginson was around at the hairpin. And I'd seen there was a braking manoeuvre or something was going on down at the hairpin on that tour. So what's happened here? Because Higginson was up battling with my Mitch. And it looks like, has there been some contact here? What's happened here? Oh, is there a move going on here, or is Higginson just... Oh, no, he's compression locked it, so he's done it on his own, and then Boak's finished him off. And on top of that, Boak lost a spot to Murrell and all of that. Yeah, that was unfortunate for the pair of them, especially for Higginson. He was having a really good run and just what was that just happened? Sorry, I'm going to wind it back there for a second. There was another car that comes screaming in there. Oh yeah, there it was. Maybe that's just a glitch in the game or something going on. I'm not quite sure. But it looked a bit strange there. I thought I'd better check that one out. But, Higginson is doing pretty well. And, he's someone that he very much look at the last 2 laps of this race and go, this race went terrible. But he was running at the top 10 for most of it. It's just a compression lock at the end that took him out of it. Zach Brown up to 11th as well, so he's done really, really well here. But unfortunately for him, he's going to run out of laps to get inside the top 10 unless the 3 in front of him make an error. Yeah, and the way they're running pretty well. I mean, Murrell's not looking to get into too big a fire, as I mentioned. He's nursing an ill set up shoulder. Boak's very much, he's just trying to get some good points out of the equation. Sayu is cocked to a slide there for Murrell. That actually might open the door for Zach Brown, depending on how Murrell's hairpin exit goes. But yeah, up the front of the field. Oh, hang on. So no, it was an attempted passing move there for Cox. He didn't quite make it done. I was just going to go up to the lead of the field because we are. Well, he has just crossed the line there. Luke Rosello's taken the win in race 3.
He certainly has. Noah Tara's going to come home for second here. Will Devonish will be third behind him. So Devonish had a ton of pace to burn at the end of that one there, but just didn't quite get to the back of Noah Tara as quickly as he was hoping for. And the margin at the end of the day, biggest margin we've seen in a sprint race for a little while, 8.3 seconds, first to second there. So Devonish home for third, Mackenzie home fourth, and through the bike chicane. Egmanis in fifth place after all of that, so turned out to be an okay night for them after that. Brenton Foley home in sixth, so he's had a fairly good outing tonight, Brenton Foley. Remember, he was actually vying for a really good result here a couple of years ago. I think Lockie Burke and him going toe-to-toe in one of the latter races. It was actually earlier in the year, one year. And then Lime Mitch home in seventh, although question marks over what happened at the start line there. We'll need to take a bit more of a look at that. Phil Boak will be happy with 8. That's a really good solid drive for him, up 11 spots ahead of Cox, who has spent most of the night outside the 10. Finally cracks a good result there. And then Scott Murrell home in 10th place. So that is your top 10. Zach Brown got all the way up to 11th after starting plumb last in the rear of the grid, so 12 spot gain for him is really, really good. Brendan Ross recovered to 15th, so he didn't quite do as well as Devonish did on his recovery after the issues he had in race 2, but as we talked about, those sort of times and points will offset each other overall for the round, so we're not expecting a huge amount of change in the driver's standings. Only non-finisher in this one was Steve Warwick, who pulled over not too long after the safety car restart, and then 4 cars 1 lap down in that one. Darren Loughnane, Jesse Bennett and Luke Speck, all who were involved in that melee on the opening lap, as there's a bit of a logjam in the lane here, and then the very unlucky Anthony Green. So there you go. So racing done and dusted for Symmons Plains for the night. Now, waiting to see if we can actually get anybody to come and have a little bit of a chat with us. We're not actually sure if people are going to be able to move around in the Discord at the moment, so we will put the call out and see who's there. But I think probably the ones we're going to be wanting to speak to, Rody, probably going to be, I'd say Noah Tara is probably one of them, if we can get a hold of him. Who else are you liking the look of there when you look at the points graphics and how everyone's positioned?
Actually, I was just looking at the team's points and realizing I have to fix something there. Just looking at how things have gone tonight. I mean, the 3 rounds nice are ones we don't really necessarily have to talk to the first place guys, but I suppose there was some really good battling going on there, so it wouldn't hurt to have a chat to. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get Luke in because he is on a self-imposed media ban at the moment.
Well, looking at the media ban, I think it needs to be extended to some other forms as well, if that's the case. But we'll let that sleeping kitty lie, and we'll worry about some of that a bit later on. But yeah, we're getting a couple of drivers. It looks like they might be trying to make their way up to come and see us. So I'm wondering if we might see if we can grab Noah Tara if he's got half a shake, I think. And I'm wondering if we might be able to see if we can get a hold of Lime Mitch and maybe one or two
Mitch
others.
Mitch is one I would like to chat to because he's come back and he's not really like you expect a bit of face drop off. Not really. I think consistently, like he's averaged a 7th or something like that from tonight, which is pretty good for somebody who's been out of the car for 2 years. I mean, he was running good on. Well, actually, where did Higginson do? 17th, 9th. He fell off at the end. I know Higginson had a good run in that, but I'm not sure necessarily. I mean, Dane would be a good person to talk to because Dane, was running there or thereabouts the entire night. So
everybody's running away at the moment. Every time I put someone's name out there to see if they want to come and have a little bit of a chat with us, they sort of inadvertently disappear at the moment. So I think a few people are moving around and having a chinwag about a few things. But what I actually think we might do, Rody, is we might just have maybe a little bit of a quiet reflection on the round. So you've actually got the points table sort of getting close to ready at the moment. So what we might do is just have a little bit of a a sticky beak at how that points graphic actually is playing out. I haven't got a graphic ready to go for this one because the points are not 100% live, but we will bring up the standings on the old laptop on the side here, and then we'll talk to you about who is positioned where in the standings at the moment. So this was the driver standings coming into the night. So as we have a look at this graphic right now, let's just run through who is where, and this is based on the finishing results as they sit right now, with penalties still to be applied. If anything comes out. Now, actually noting as well here, the points actually has race 23, but of course 25 is what we're up to at the moment, because the two race for the grids actually do count as an official race in ASR, even though they weren't awarded for points. They were a qualifying race, so they do count. Will Devonish, 2,446 points, so he's moved his total along there. Brendan Ross now moves up into second place by virtue of Tim Redmond not being here tonight. So Ross moves up to second with 1,929, so he's a little over 300 points behind. Up to third is Noah Tara, so he recovers. He's up currently on your graphic there. He's fifth, so he moves up to third overall, 1,870, ahead of Redmond on 1,859 and Foley on 1,845. So that's a very, very tight group of three drivers that are going to be heading to the mountain in the next couple of weeks, only separated by about 25 points or thereabouts. So there's not a lot in it there either. Igmanis was sixth, so he stays sixth on the top 10 order there. So he is in sixth on 1,703 points. Leonard Grossel on your graphic there in seventh. He actually drops out of the top 10 by virtue of the fact that he's not here tonight. He's replaced by Luke Rosella, moving up to 1,486 in seventh. Eighth is Lockie Lock on your graphic there. He is staying in eighth, 1,385. Ninth for Daniel Cox, so he's off your graphic there. He's going to move up to 1,282 points, so not too far behind Lockie Lock, just over 100 points. And then 10th at the moment goes to Dane McKenzie, another one who is off the points graphic there at the moment. So his results move him to 1,280, so not that far behind ninth place Daniel Cox, only 2 points in arrears of Cox. And again, all provisional at the moment, subject to anything that needs to be reviewed post-race. Grossel, who was on your graphic there at 7th, he actually drops to 11th. Peter Thrower, who's on your graphic there in 9th, he drops to 12th. Those two weren't here this weekend. Wedding in 11th continues his little free fall down the order. Boak moves up to 14th, and then the last man will go to his Cam Rutledge in 15th, and he is the last man, it looks like. No, he's not. Sorry, he's the second last man to crack 1,000 points for the season with 10.15, and Zach Brown with his foray in race 3 there actually is the last man currently to crack 1,000 points with 1,007. So there's a bit still going on there in the point standings, but that's just roughly how they sit provisionally before we head to the mountain in 2 weeks' time, Rody.
Yeah, a few points that still need to be set up from that. It's just the issues of working from not live data, trying to set up the points table the way I'd like it to play. So those will be updated, obviously, by the time we get the broadcast out for Bathurst. Those will be up to date. It has, had to do a quick bit of back-end work to get the team's points to show up properly, because the way everything, the data went back in, it assumed Lewis Wedding was the first driver, not Luke Rosella for their car. So the gap has increased, I think, slightly. I think the gap was, what was the gap for the team's points coming into the night? It was something like 50...
It was just a touch on 50 points. It was if we go to the team standings, I can tell you what that was. It was 48 points. So it was 35.57 plays 35.09. So
so there is a slight wiggle in Pixel's direction. There's now a 74-point lead.
Yeah, so they've extended that to 74 points. Now, just having a look and cross-checking everybody side to side here, the only change that I can physically see on the order is there's been a swap between PBF Race Engineering. PBF Race Engineering and Beyond Racing have switched spots on the points graphic there, and the only other one there is Beyond Racing Team Tanifer actually jumps back over the top of the Fuchs HSP dealer team there as well, because they didn't have any drivers in tonight at all. And then the rest of it is as you see there. So only 2 spots have changed there on your points graphic heading into the next round in a couple of weeks' time. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that's where we will leave it for tonight. With all the issues that we've had around Discord, I can still see it looks like it's behaving a little bit erratically. There's still some messages and things that are failing to load. So I don't think we're going to take the risk of trying to do anything here between now and interviewing tonight. So we might give the interviews a miss. But apart from that, it's on to the Bathurst. The mountain is calling. It is 2 weeks away. So there is a few things to remember. There is it's a 3-race consecutive round. So the development series, Friday the 13th of October. Well, really, Friday the 13th is unlucky for some, but it's lucky for others, as I keep saying. That's where they're going to have their first hit out. So that's the development series running around the mountain, and I believe I think it's a 125k race, if memory serves me correctly. I'll stand to be corrected by Lewis Wedding on that one, and then the big one, the qualifying night, the top 10 shootout for the 500 on the night of Saturday the 14th of October, and then the day race at about 1 o'clock Eastern time for the 500 on Sunday the 15th of October. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody, and as always, please drive safely. See you in 2 weeks. Bye for now.